Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is Monday, December 14th, 2020. I am back once again, Don Tony. This is your fourth Q&A for Four Horsemen. Q&A. Monday afternoon, miserable weather here in New York. I'm hearing that in 2 days we're supposed to get 9 inches of snow, 12 inches of snow. So one news article that said that we may even top 27. How do you go from 9 to 12 and then another website saying 27? I don't get it, but hopefully it goes to the south or to the north. Not looking forward to it. We're 11 days away from Christmas. Doesn't feel like Christmas at all. I put there you go. Put the little tree in the background. Someone actually, a good friend of the show, sent it as a little something for me to put in the back. But even with the tree, I mean, I listened to some Christmas music over the weekend, and I got sad. I got really sad. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm spending Christmas with my family. There's no way, shape, or form I'm missing that. We will take our precautions so nobody gets sick, but I'm seeing them. So that's not a question. In fact, this year we're not exchanging like we usually do. Like, I'm just getting a small little something for my parents. I'm going to give my girl a little bit of money that I know she could use for her bills. But other than that, that's it. No exchanging this year. So 2020, 2020 has been a dumpster fire. Have to do kind of like the pose. Or maybe, or you do something like this. 2020 has been a dumpster fire. But, tried to make the best of it. I know a lot of you out there worked very hard to try to make the best of it as well. And 2021 will, without a doubt, be a better year. Doesn't matter who's president, doesn't matter who's mayor, who's governor. Here in my neck of the woods in New York, I mean, obviously, we could sit on social media and complain all day long, all month long, all year long. And where does that really bring us? If anything, you can just get angrier. So I'm just trying to take all the negatives and turn them into as many positives as possible. Now, you're going to see I got my coffee ready with my Captain Lou Albano mug. I got my Topo Chico, my sparkling water, because bulletproof coffee gives you like really bad keto breath. So I'll be rotating back and forth. I will tell you this much. Today's episode is going to be a lot shorter because, we're pretty much doing these on a regular rotation now, every 2 weeks. I actually have some news for all of you regarding 2021 in this channel. Had a long talk with MISH yesterday. I'm talking hours. And we were talking about things that are going on our Patreon page, the website, the shows, what we could do to tighten up the shows, what we could do as an additional show. And, people have been saying to us they'd love to see us do watch-alongs in it. So we've been paying attention to everybody's suggestions out there. I truly meant what I said, that last Monday was a true turning point for this channel. If you actually go back and watch last Monday's show, last Wednesday's show, and last Friday's show, you see how things have been tightened up in an extreme way. Basically, letting all that noise outside, just not let it creep into the show anymore, and just staying focused on the points at hand. A lot of you have been saying to post individual clips. I put one up yesterday about Keith Lee and the Vince McMahon nonsense. Got a nice little response, so I'm going to start doing that more on a regular basis. But what people have been asking me more than anything on this channel is, why don't we do memberships? Because, if anybody knows about Patreon and OnlyFans, things like that, obviously we're not going to show our whats, but people are saying, why don't you do a membership thing here? And the more I thought about it, and I'm like, that's not a bad idea. And look, Patreon obviously is not what it used to be. It's been infiltrated by a lot of garbage out there. Patreon has been having some problems as well. So I don't know the future of Patreon. But the idea of doing memberships here is not a bad idea. So Mish and I yesterday were talking about it, and I think starting January, we're going to offer a membership here. Now, what does the membership entail? Number one, commercial-free episodes. Now, if you've also noticed, starting last week, it might have even been the week before, you only get commercials at the very beginning of the episode and the very end of the episodes on YouTube. You don't get any commercials in the middle anymore. We have sacrificed getting any commercial revenue from commercials, so you have a more enjoyable experience checking out the shows. So we would obviously have no ads at all, but we were also thinking about doing a Q&A that's members only. And basically, you have the opportunity to send us, ask us whatever you want. We're also going to test out taking calls. A lot of you out there have been wanting us to take calls. And if you go back to our days 15 years ago taking calls, a lot of people were wonderful calling in, but you get into that repetition of people calling in just for the sake of calling in. They really don't have anything much to talk about. The one thing that I absolutely don't have the heart to do is just disconnect people. I've paid attention to like Michael Kay and some of these sports ESPN radio shows, and I notice how they handle people that call in. You let them ask their question, you mute them, and then you just thank them for the call and you just disconnect. On YouTube, it's a little bit of a different animal. I see other podcasters like Jason and others who sometimes have, some issues with callers calling in. So Mish and I thought, hey, that's not a bad idea to start calls, members only, and then we will, as that basically irons itself out and we can expand it, then we expand it on the channel. We're also going to do some shows that will be released early for members, and then it'll be released a day or two later, probably a day later for everybody here. But we're going to do a lot of interactive stuff because, like I said, we've always had the Patreon. But the fact of the matter is that we don't know the future of Patreon. I think the future of YouTube is pretty solid. But if you have any ideas as far as what you'd like to see, and let me also make this clear. If we do a members page here, like a membership, we're not doing anything above like $5. And it may not even be that much. We're not looking for a money grab here. Obviously, we got a lot of expenses, and I find myself, especially on Patreon, once in a while now having to dip into my own expenses, my own money to take care of expenses. So we're going to do a membership thing, but if you have any suggestions at all as far as what you would like to, a lot of you have said, let's do a Zoom thing. Similar to like the AEW Heels. We'll host a private Zoom. Anybody that wants to come on video, and we just have this chat. Oh, that's another thing. Speaking of chats, one thing we haven't done on this channel that Mish and I are definitely going to start doing in January, and we're going to offer it to everyone. Maybe we'll do one for members, and maybe we'll do one for everybody, but we're going to do live chats. No format. No news, no nothing. We're just going to come up here and just chew the shit, pardon my French, with all of you out there. Whatever you want to talk about, what's gone on in our lives for the last week, it's going to be just a down-to-earth chat. Nothing planned, just wherever our live friends take us, and you can ask away. No need to super chats unless you want to, but we're going to do live chats, and we're going to do it pretty much once a week, or once every 10 days. So a lot of things are planned for 2021. A lot of you wanted me to do a sports show, and I am working on that. Problem is, and I think some other people, because I have someone who was going to do a baseball show also. If you remember, I was going to do it 6 months ago, but I just could not get into this season with COVID. And I know someone else that started hyping up a baseball podcast for next year. And look, I don't want to do anything to step on anybody's toes, but I think that person also realized, you're a Mets fan, you're a Yankees fan, you're a New York fan, fine. When you do a baseball show, you better be prepared to study 30 teams or however number of teams are in baseball. Because if you're going to go on the show and only talk about the 98 Yankees or the 86 Mets, you're going to have a problem. So it's not as easy as you think. So if I go in on that, it's going to be all in, pun intended, with AEW. But anyway, enough of the rambling. You gave me 10 minutes to just basically give you a little state of the state as far as the channel. And I welcome any suggestions. I don't have some of the names in front of me, but some of you really were telling me, please, DT, focus at the topics at hand. Keep the noise out of it. And over the last week, I think you've noticed I've really gone out of my way to avoid doing those. And it's gone. It's gone. So anyway, with that said, Hulkster, brother, as of this writing, what is my match of the year in all of wrestling? Okay, we're only 2 weeks away from the end of 2020. So anything can happen in the final 2 weeks of 2020. The reason, and I've talked about this over the years, the reason why I don't include Japanese wrestling or wrestling from Japan on my awards is because a very, very, very small percentage of our viewers or listeners follow Japanese wrestling. So I know that kind of limits us to AEW, NWA, MLW, NXT, and WWE. Because for the most part, I think 80 to 90% of fans out there watch some of that product at minimum. Sure, not everybody watches NWA. And to be honest with you, NWA I don't think has had any matches of the year. Have they even had any matches? Biggest disappointment of 2020, Billy Corgan. I can't wait. Mish and I are going to be doing some year-end awards. We're actually going to do 2 versions of it. We're going to put all the categories on YouTube in a couple of weeks, and you all could vote on it. So we will announce, the categories. And if you remember the Blackheart year-end awards, we don't do, we do the typical Wrestler of the Year, Most Improved, Rookie of the Year, blah, blah, blah. But we do a lot of oddball categories as well that no one else does. So we will definitely reveal your choices, who won in your eyes the award, and then Mish and I will give our picks as well, as far as Wrestler of the Year and this and that. I know a lot of year-end awards are starting to come out, and Roman Reigns is featured over and over and over again as Wrestler of the Year. Quite honestly, I don't think he's done enough at this point. He hasn't been back all that long. As the small, snapshot of what he's done this year, does that take the entire 2020? I'm not so sure about it. But again, this is not an award show now, so I have time to think about it. Very curious to see what all of your picks will be. But as far as match for 2020, there's so many ways to look at it. You could look at the cinematic match with AJ Styles and Undertaker. But when you look at that, that wasn't necessarily a match. It was cinematic, obviously. I don't necessarily like to put cinematic matches in that category, although they entertained me big time. The Cena Bray Wyatt one, I absolutely loved it. I loved it. But as far as in-ring, like the Stadium Stampede was a hot mess, but it's one of my favorite matches of 2020. If you really want me to choose something based on work rate, I tell you, right now I'm a little bit of a toss-up between Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, and Jeff Hardy, the ladder match at Clash of Champions. It told an awesome story. That's the thing about that match. It told an awesome story. Some of the things were outrageous in there, but all 3 guys worked their ass off, and it told the story. Just even little things with Jeff Hardy with the earlobe and this and that. Some of it was nuts. I don't know. For some reason, I kind of am attracted to that match as match of the year. Some of you may disagree. Look, War Games we just had was phenomenal. The 2 War Games matches, I think, have every right to be up there. My God, we had earlier this year FTR versus the Young Bucks, which I thought was amazing. It was amazing. And I know some of you out there are not into the flippy. There was a little bit of it towards the end that I wasn't really feeling, but those would be a couple of picks right off the bat. and by all means, in the comment section, if there's anything, because I've watched all the feedback and I comment on as many as I can. And if you have something that you feel otherwise, speak up, because not only do I see it, but everybody tuning in will see it as well. What wrestling career advice would I give to Aleister Black and Ricochet at the moment? Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Look, people crap on Ricochet's promo ability. People crap on Keith Lee's promo ability. They've been cutting the same style of promo for years and years and years. It's just the storyline around them is what makes it look, it magnifies how bad that they come across. I've been talking about, Keith Lee was my favorite wrestler of the NXT roster up until Dexter Lumis came along. Last year, when I started Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite, 60 some odd episodes ago, for the first 6 months, my favorite wrestler on NXT, Keith Lee. In AEW, believe it or not, it was Ortiz. Don't ask me why. I mean, I just absolutely loved his work. I still do. But the one thing that I commented about Keith Lee even last year is the way he cuts his promo. It sounds like a cartoon. I mean, this is nothing new. And, people are focusing on it now because of that dopey news claim that Vince is angry, fed up, is demoted. But Ricochet, Keith Lee have been doing the same. Aleister Black not getting an opportunity right now. The best thing for those two guys to do is just keep doing what brought you to the dance, what got you in WWE. They're not resting on their laurels. You see Ricochet work. It doesn't matter who he is facing. He puts 110% in his matches. Aleister Black, when he is out there, he tries his hardest and busts his ass, no question. Those guys are doing their part. WWE, creative opportunity, and others are not currently doing enough on their part. More to Aleister Black, I would say. But, the thing you got to understand is there are so many people on the roster, maybe not as much as it used to be, and you see them all come out when they pay tribute to, what's his face that passed away recently, Pat Patterson. And you look at the stage when the Raw roster came out or the Smackdown roster came out. And then you look at tributes from, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you see the level of talent on that stage. The numbers are a lot smaller now. And even though they're smaller, there's still quite a few people above the food chain of Ricochet, above the food chain of Aleister Black. But, you're getting paid. You're a company guy. You're not, being complacent. You're doing what you were paid to do to no fault of your own, and fans do see that. And look, if it ends up, Aleister Black gets brought back to NXT, I think that's a wonderful thing. I've talked about that on the other shows a few times in the last 2-3 months. I think Aleister Black in NXT would be fire. I personally think I'd like to see a feud between Aleister Black and Finn Balor. Once Finn Balor is done with Pete Dunne and Karrion Kross. But, so there's really nothing those guys, and, I don't like to get into the, leave WWE now, you do better, bigger and better elsewhere. I don't think it's my position, let alone people out there who are unemployed, telling someone who is employed what they should do with their career. And it's funny because when it's someone you like, let them handle their own career. But it's someone you don't like what a lot of people did to Miro. You look at how you're being used, you're a joke, you're playing video games. I think the guy's having a time of his life right now. I think it's a little bit of a mental and a physical break for Miro. And then when the time is right, boom. I mean, he's not getting jobbed out. I have no problem with the way AEW is using Miro right now. So I say those guys are doing what they are supposed to do. Now it's up to WWE to do their part as well. Do I anticipate seeing Dynamite versus Raw in 2022? Well, We have 2021 to get through first. No, I don't. I think AEW on Wednesday is a nice staple for wrestling fans right now. I've said this a couple of times the last couple of weeks. 2020, and look, we talked about this 6-7 months ago as well. In 2021, I truly believe NXT will move to Tuesday or Thursday night. I'm kind of leaning towards Thursday night. My preference. The problem is, and you got to understand, this is why I think it will be Tuesday. Even though Impact is on, even though AEW Dark is on, tell you why I think NXT will likely move to Tuesday and not Thursday. When you have takeovers, especially, a pay-per-view that's on a Sunday or on a Saturday, which they do once in a while as well, the last thing you want is for a lot of wrestlers who are going to be on that show having to work just 2 days before, especially if it's a live show, and then hype up a pay-per-view that's going to be just 2 days away. I think they work on a Tuesday, and yes, I know what you're going to say. Well, you could look at it on the opposite side, DT. They have their pay-per-view on a Sunday, and 48 hours later, they're right back on television again. Yeah, but look what they did with NXT War Games. We had 72 hours later, and almost nobody other than Raquel Gonzalez, Ember Moon, maybe one or two other people, nobody was really used. Nobody was really used. So I personally think that Tuesday would be the way to go for NXT. So, and look, I don't see any reason why AEW needs to go head-to-head with Raw. There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason. You got all the wrestling fans. Look, Wednesday Night Wrestling is doing a better rating than Raw. Why would you want people to split or make a choice on Monday? No, I don't like that at all, to be honest with you. Even though I'm enjoying AEW more than I'm enjoying Raw. And if I had to sign one poultry figure in the WWF, poultry as in chicken, would it be the Gobbledygooker or the Red Rooster? Red Rooster. I think, look, the Red Rooster at the time was considered a joke more than anything else. But Terry Taylor, phenomenal wrestler. Loved Terry Taylor's work. I think my favorite was when he had Alexander York managing him, and he was Terrence Taylor. But Terry Taylor, look, at that time he had the gimmicks, the cartoonish shit. He had a lot of young kids watching, so they dyed part of his hair. I mean, it was goofy. But Terry Taylor could work, man, so I would choose Red Rooster any day of the week. Any day. Noob! What's going on, Noob? Do I think Sasha Banks and Asuka will main event at WrestleMania 37? No, I don't. I love the chemistry between Asuka and Sasha. Love it. And if you've noticed, over 2020, I've really warmed up on Sasha. A lot of my issues always with Sasha was more on the personal side of it. Then I would just take a step back and think of it more and more. DT, all you care about is the entertainment side of Sasha. If she's got her own little things about her privately, that's her. That's her private life. That's not mine. So the minute I got past that, opened up my eyes even more about Sasha. I love the work that Sasha and Asuka did in 2020. I just think there was so much of it that it would really not stand out like it should for WrestleMania 37. Who knows? Maybe 38 or 39. Right now, I don't think Sasha and Asuka would be an ideal WrestleMania match. Look, it's a match that WWE could go with, and it's easy. They know they could work with each other. They work with each other wonderfully. So you could pencil it in. You're getting a good match. It's just that for WrestleMania, especially with the amount of work they've done with each other in 2020, I don't think that would be an ideal match for WrestleMania 37. Benjamin, he's noticed that Johnny Gargano lately is calling people goofs in his promos. Do I think he got it from me? Look, I could never say, but if anybody that's newer to the show, I gotta get off my lazy ass and pull the two. God rest Ashley Mazzaro's soul. So Ashley Mazzaro has something to do with this. Over the years, there's been little one-liners that I have done on these shows that the following week is used on television. Happens once in a blue moon. But the two most notorious ones recently was when Ashley Mazzaro appeared, I think in Mexico it was, or Puerto Rico. And, you know, look, I have said my comments about Ashley Mazzaro over the years. You know, I will not besmirch her with her passing. But the one thing that I did joke about at that time was she showed up on Mexico or Puerto Rican event somewhere, and she posted on social media how all the fans were into her and this and that. In the photo that she posted, I remember circling all of the heads around ringside. Every single head was looking in a different direction than hers. And it was sad. It was sad. And I also felt bad a little bit. You remember when Stephanie kind of teased something with a Divas thing, and, you know, like she thought that she was going to be... Look, you feel bad. You feel bad. You look back on it. Obviously, these were huge letdowns for her. But at that time, you know, like I had come up with the Donzilla Army. I think Mish actually came up with the Donzilla Army. He's got his soup nuts, and we have like names for like five. And we happened to be talking about Ashley Mazzaro on that same episode. And I said, what do you call Ashley Mazzaro fans? And we're like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe you call them ash holes. Ash holes. And couple of days later, John Cena on TV actually used the word ash holes, which was just a weird thing. And it could be coincidence, absolutely, but he never used it before, never used it after. Then there was one joke. If any of you out there remember what the joke was, I will send you a wrestling shirt from anywhere. I don't care if it's Japan. You know, the first person that posted in the comment section, I'll send it to you. I made a joke on one of the shows once about Paul Heyman and him being Jewish. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a nasty joke or anything, but it was a really funny phrase. And a couple of days later, when Paul Heyman was on TV, he said the exact same thing, word for word. And it creeped out. I mean, in a good way. Our live, like, did you see what he said tonight? And that's happened about 10 times over the years. Is it coincidence? Probably. Do people listen to the shows, watch the shows? Yes. I mean, Mish will tell you, if you don't believe me, we get emails, we get DMs. Certain Hall of Famer that was in a very famous clique in WWE in the late 90s was one of our patrons for about a year. And, you know, we get messages. This is the one thing. I mean, look, if somebody publicly shouts me out or shouts out the shows, then I'll talk about it. I might brag a little bit about it. I'm always humbled and appreciative of it. But when people keep it on the low, you know, because a lot of wrestlers, and this, anybody that does podcasts will vouch for this with me more than anybody, but a lot of you will understand this as well. A lot of wrestlers, you know, they don't socialize on social media with us regular folk. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but the thing is that they keep what they like on the low because it comes off as tacky or campy when someone keeps name dropping someone that likes your work. You know what I mean? And, you know, like you thank them and you mention it once in a while, but, you know, a lot of people like to keep it private. Infamous example, D'Lo Brown. D'Lo Brown was on the Masked Maniac show X number of years ago, and I knew he enjoyed the shows, and I never said it publicly. And then one time I was on with him and Maniac, and I got the show. It's on Patreon playing right now, and he's like, I love your work. I love this. I love all you do. And I even said to him, I'm like, look, I want to ask you as a black person, do you get offended at some of the tongue-in-cheek? Now, I don't do that tongue-in-cheek humor anymore. I mean, as you get older, you evolve. I didn't do anything heinous, but, I crack jokes here and there. And he's like, no. He says, I don't get offended by that. There's no malice involved in it. And he made it publicly. Then he reveals that he takes the shows to Japan at that time, and you'd have like, Albert, when he was in Japan, and all these other guys, you find out that they're all tuning into the show, which was an awesome thing. I get DMs, not so much on Twitter anymore because I changed my settings that only people I follow I get messages from, because I was getting a lot of not nasty stuff, but just a lot of noise, I think would probably be the way to put it. But I get DMs on Twitter, dude, appreciated what you said, thank you, keep up the good work, this and that. Somebody, and I feel bad because I didn't listen to him, and he's a former NXT champion. He told me about 5 months ago, he gave me advice, all that noise out there, just act like they're dead. Just don't bring it up. And for a couple of weeks, I listened to him, and then I found myself in the same habit. No more. You have my word. No more. We will address morons about the dumb articles, like I said, about this Keith Lee demoted stuff. You see all that clickbait stuff on YouTube with these big, bold letters. I'm going to start doing that. But I'm going to do the reverse. When they write demoted in big letters with a question mark, and then you click on the show, no, he's not demoted. That's clickbait. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to just write, I'm not going to write bullshit, but we're going to start calling these people out. Not by name, but dispel all this garbage that's out there. But, so anyway, my point is that, there's a lot of people that tune in. And, I sometimes don't know if someone hears something on a show or sees something written. I will tell you that I've had a few people over the last year or so unblock me, to have me blocked for the longest time. And I don't consider it a badge of honor by being blocked by someone, because there's so many people, it doesn't bother me. But then every time they talk about said wrestler, they have to add in the same sentence, by the way, who blocked me? It's not a badge of honor. So, did Johnny Gargano get that idea from me? I have no idea. I doubt it. But because when I say goofs, I didn't originally come up with that. I got that I think I got that from Dr. D, David Schultz. You're nothing but a goof. See, he wouldn't say goof. He had a southern accent, so he would be like, goof. I'll crack your head and you're nothing but a goof. So, it is what it is. And Benjamin said, by the way, this will actually be the 5th Q&A episode. Yeah, I know. I kind of screwed up. That's why I changed one to the pilot. So we would have the pilot 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th instead of pilot 2, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, but by the way, we'll have a new template, new visual, and when MISH starts joining me for the Q&A and for live chats, we'll have the double screen. We're probably even going to do a triple screen, and we're also looking to do Zooms. We want to do like an AEW Heels version of us, our family. So you're more than welcome to be part of that. When we're all working on it now. Mish and I are working very hard. I was on the phone with him yesterday for almost 3 hours, just trying things out. We signed up on a couple of graphic sites and toyed with this and messed with that. I'm going to do a little teaser thing on Twitter tonight that, as long as it's not, I don't get brain farts and it's 2:00 in the morning, I'm going to do a little teaser on Twitter tonight that I've never done before. You'll see what I'm talking about. You'll be like, holy shit, this is awesome. So we're really working hard to take it to the next level. And I'm telling you, I'm so excited. I mean, obviously not everybody wants to come on YouTube. It didn't sound right, but not everybody likes to be on YouTube. But the fact of the matter is, the visuals, it's an extension of my personality. You get to see my eyes. You get to see the person behind the voice. And Mish is gotten the bug. Joey Numbers, who does shows with Mish on Wrestling Soup, they're doing a little bit of video now. So it's a nice little thing, you know. It's not hard. It's not hard. It literally takes about 5 to 10 minutes to set everything up, you know. So really, I mean, think about it. Q&As, live chats, calls, Zooms, new show with a different theme to it, and then like a non-wrestling show in the next couple of months when spring hits. There'll be a lot of stuff going on. Peter Quill. He hasn't posted a comment for a long time, but just so I know, he has still been watching and hitting that like button for all the videos. Thank you for that. I know I say that all the time, and it's funny. I guess because the algorithm, it's such an important deal. But I watch a ton of diet and cooking shows, you know, trying to like learn things. Like tonight, I'm making myself chicken McNuggets. I'm on keto, so I can't eat the actual thing. But there's a recipe that came out that you use like psyllium husk and almond flour and all these spices, and you know, you double dip it and it tastes almost like a chicken McNugget. But what I have noticed on almost every show that I subscribe to, especially with cooking and keto related, within 10 seconds of everybody's show, everybody's like, look, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. And they would do it 2, 3, 4 times a show. And when I see every single different person doing the same thing, I had to do some searches to find out what's the big deal. And it's an algorithm. You know, believe it or not, the biggest exposure that I get on YouTube is as a recommended video. Someone will be watching a clip of a match, another podcaster, a promotion, and then once that clip is up, a recommended video will come up. And sometimes if you don't touch the play button or the stop or close it out, it'll start playing that recommended video. So a lot of times my video starts playing on people and they did not seek out my content. So that is the number one referral that I have. So when I say, you know, even if you check it out later on, you know, hitting that like button, even if you dislike it, you know, the more activity. That's why, if you realize, I don't remember what pay-per-view it was. It was 3 or 4 months ago. It might have been, 3 or 4 months ago. And that recap that I did by myself got 21,000 views on YouTube. 21,000. Then you add in the fact that 70 to 80% of everybody who enjoys our work only access audio only. They don't go on YouTube. I'm like, why did that happen? Why do I have 20,000 on YouTube and another 50, 60,000 outside of YouTube? Then I realized when I looked at the statistics, about 15 of that 20,000 on video were recommended by YouTube. So I guess the interaction, it just led to that. So I appreciate that more than you can imagine. And I always say, you know, look, everybody super chats, Patreon, it helps. It helps. I showed Mish yesterday, so he knew I wasn't BSing him. I got hit with a $600 bill for my website company that hosts, you know, the site, the server, and this, and I have my own private server because I don't want to share with someone else, and then there's a problem, and I go down as a result of that, so I pay extra. And, you know, a lot of the money that comes in goes right back into the shows. Sometimes there's some money left over and we could, you know, use it. And you see, I use it and I buy shirts with it and, you know, I tweak things, change lighting. So, you know, as far as making a money grab, we really don't. But even if you cannot financially support what we do, recommending the show to someone else or hitting the like button or posting a comment is extremely important, and that helps tremendously. So I thank you very much, Peter. I thank you. And he loves the new Monday Nights with Mish. It really balances out the show well. He doesn't watch AEW, but he knows everyone, thanks to me, specifically, who dat? He really is watching Wednesdays for the review on NXT, and he takes a little interest of what I say about AEW. And thank you for the kind words about getting engaged for the second time. And then happy belated Thanksgiving to you as well. And I appreciate what you said about the video game thing. So you got to email me, dontony@dontony.com, so I could message you back privately about what you wrote. So that's pretty cool, man. I really appreciate that. And look, as far as Mondays go, I'm not here to start controversy anymore. The fact of the matter is, NWA, Japanese wrestling, AEW, Impact Wrestling, those are all non-WWE product that I like to cover. Yes, Wednesdays are more AEW and NXT exclusively, but when news does come out on a Monday, it's good to have someone there who watches all of that outside programming. And, it's just, it got really, really difficult to try to prepare for the shows. Oh, I can't talk about this. This person doesn't follow it. Oh, I can't talk about this. This person doesn't know about it. Oh, I can't talk about it. And, it's not fair. Be honest. It's not fair for me to do a 10-minute rant about a promotion that a co-host of mine does not follow. And that person's forced to just sit there silent while I talk. It's got to be interactive. And honestly, WWE's gotten very stale. And I'm not going to be one of these Debbie Downers that just bitches about WWE every week. There is a lot of crap in WWE, but there's also a lot of good stuff, if you think about it. I actually am enjoying the storyline build with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. I'm actually liking some of the under talent. I think Dominic Mysterio has done a great job this year. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens. I mean, come on, you can keep going on. There's a lot of good. Asuka, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Bianca Belair. I mean, and I could keep going. So it's not all, horrible. And at the same time, it's also not all cake and ice cream. So there's a really, really good balance. And, especially someone who works as hard as Mish. I don't have to do half the workload I used to do on Mondays. Not even just behind the scenes stuff, because he knows how to up his audio game, so I don't have to compensate. But the guy pulls all the discussions that he wants to talk about also. That prevents me from having to do it. So it's a real, real, real beautiful balance. And, the one thing I don't want is I don't want to hurt Wrestling Soup in any way. Mish only has a certain number of hours in a week to work and do the shows. And he puts in a crap load of effort for Wrestling Soup, even on days that there is nothing going on. And he's got his own Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestling Soup, as I have patreon.com/DonTony. So the thing is that, I don't want to burn out Mish, but he is having a ball, is really loving what we're doing on Mondays. And we're going to expand. You have no idea. January 2021, look into my eyes when I say this. January 2021, this channel goes to the next level, and we're going to be, it may not be January 1st, but during January 2021, you're going to see, I think I said earlier this year, give me till the end of the year to really get the feel of things. And there's still tons of things that I don't know about with YouTube. I just don't have enough time to work on them yet. But January 2021, I am so excited to see. And, when we first launched the channel, I was going to be happy with 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. Because like I said, 70 to 80% of people who tune in tune in for audio only. So I said, okay, I'll never get the numbers that a lot of other podcasters get as far as the video side goes. But overall, my numbers are better or equal. And someone said to me, oh, you're going to get much more than 5,000. And we hit 5,000 like that, and it's awesome. So now we're this close to getting to 17,000. I think anything under 30,000 by the end of next year would be a disappointment. So we graduate, look, I want to earn everybody subscribing here. I don't want to beg, and, sometimes it does sound a little bit begging. I agree, but I want to earn your enjoyment here. I don't want you to subscribe simply because you're just shutting me up or something like that. So, Crazy Cruiserweight. Which would I rather have as a pet? A snake or an iguana? Probably an iguana. I've always told the story. First of all, my mom is deathly afraid of snakes. She's deathly afraid of snakes. When about 20 years ago, as a prank, I bought one of these remote control snakes, and I put it on the floor, and I turned the thing on, and I was in the other room, and I'm hitting the remote, and my mother legitimately almost had a heart attack. I laughed for about 2 seconds, and then I realized how big of a piece of shit I was to do that. And I threw that son of a bitch out in the garbage and said, never again will I ever joke about something like that. Yet you see on Twitter now, like this Japanese company that keeps swamping people with ads, and they show this toy that you open a card and a butterfly like flies out. I mean, it only flies for about 2 seconds, but you see some of those people's reactions. In a commercial, they add like nice, cheery music to it. But if you look at one woman, she opens the card and she's not like, oh my God, this is so cool. She's like, ah! Like she almost had a heart attack. But you see this cheery music and everything. You think it's all good. Don't get me wrong. There's a few people I'd love to still send things like that to. But nah, man, I was a crap. But my only firsthand ever seeing snakes in person. You see a garden snake once in a while. We used to go freshwater fishing in upstate New York. But when I used to be friends with Nicole Bass, God rest her soul. Oh my God, how I became friends. She used to live three blocks from my old house. And we used to hang out. I've told this story many times before. And look, she said it when she was alive. So, like I say, many times, once someone dies, that's when people are like, oh, we were close friends. We were close friends. You never talked about them while they were alive. Only until they're dead, so they can't call you full of shit. But Nicole Bass, she was alive. And she lived by, any of you out there goes back me a long ways. You've heard me say Juniper Park. How many times? Juniper Park. Juniper Park is where I used to live. You remember that goofy picture of me in front of the Trans Am at the park? That's Juniper Park. She lived right across from Juniper Park. And back in the 80s, when we used to hang out late at night with a boombox, we would literally on the corner, because she lived right on the corner, you go right off Juniper Park and go. One day I'll do a Google image, show you where she lived. They're passed on now, so we're not revealing anything private. But we used to sit right in front of her house to the wee hours in the morning, cranking the radio, hanging out. And, sometimes she would come down and she'd be like, look, you lower it a little bit, trying to get some sleep and this and that. But Nicole Bass, as much as she has been ripped for her wrestling, lack of ability, I guess you call it, and some of the other things she did, she was one of the coolest people in wrestling that I ever knew personally. She was awesome. And I will never forget, anybody that knows Nicole Bass knows it, there's no way for me to make this up. I'll never forget when she would invite us, because my friend Darren lived right across the street from her. And she would invite us upstairs to like hang out, and she'd show off her trophies and the pictures with her with Arnold and others. But you would walk up this very narrow flight of stairs to her apartment. And it was just amazing. She'd have this big like workout thing right in like her living room. So it really wasn't much to move around. But we would just hang out up there and be in awe. When she did some work in ECW and then went to WWF, even though it was not very good, I fucking loved it. I absolutely loved it. And the snake story is her husband used to own this real exotic snake. And one time, because he used to always go to Astoria, Queens, which is about a 30-minute drive, I would say, with traffic from where we lived. And he would go to Astoria to some exotic pet store, and he would buy these exotic rare mice to give to his snake. And one time we were hanging outside. He's like, "You guys want to come with me? We're gonna go to Astoria. I'm gonna get some food for the snake. Food." I had no idea what he was gonna get. I didn't know if I own a snake, so we drove. We sat in his car, and he drove to Astoria. We get to this pet store, and he brings the snake in the back, and they take out these cute little white mice. Never get that vision out of my eyes. It broke my heart, man. And my friend Joey loved it. My friend Joey was so into it and everything. And, when he said food, I had no idea this was the food he was talking about. So I could never, ever feed. Put it this way, if I got a snake, he or she would be a vegetarian. So, which jobs would I rather do from likely to least likely? A weatherman for the radio, a mailman, taxi driver, hospital janitor, or airport security. Least favorite, probably be taxi driver. Even though I don't mind driving and you can make some nice tips or anything, I don't think I want to sit on my ass for 8-10 hours a day doing that. I think taxi driver would be the worst. Next would be probably airport security, because I just don't feel comfortable at airports. Hospital janitor, I wouldn't mind all that much. I probably would be getting the vaccine any day now, if you think about it. And the weatherman for the radio, I probably would enjoy the second most. Mailman, if my legs are good, mailman I wouldn't mind doing. I know people hate it when it's raining like it is now or snowing like it's going to do in 2 days, but I actually think I would enjoy being a mailman, believe it or not. We used to know someone who worked at the post office. This is going back to like the late 80s. And he would intercept like credit cards. Back then, they didn't have, I don't think, the 3-digit security code. And he would intercept some credit cards. And I remember, what was it, International Mail? Was that the catalog from like the late 80s, early 90s? I think it was International Mail. And you would buy like a bunch of things from the catalog and you'd have it shipped to like a different address. And they didn't verify the credit card information. You would have the person's name and address because he intercepted the envelope, but you'd have it shipped. So could I have it shipped to my job? And then it was really a resident. There was no internet. There was no Google Maps. Nothing like that. So I think it was International Mail. For some reason, I'm thinking of that. If anybody remembers, I know it was something mail. M-A-L-E, not M-A-I-L. So, top 3 favorite midnight snacks. For me right now, pickles and cheese. Pickles and cheese. Pickles and cheese. Oh, no, it's kibbles and bits. Pickles and cheese, I'll eat late at night. I have, oh my God, I would love to take one out right now and show you. If I show you, you'd be like, my God, that looks amazing. I got these keto chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwiches. And they're not that big, but they're unbelievable. So if I'm trying to learn the intermittent fasting. Like I try not to eat between like 10 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock the next afternoon. That gives me 18 hours of eating nothing. And then 6 hours of eating pretty much whatever I want. But if I'm really hungry, I'll have like a little bit of ice cream. And I also have keto cereal, which is mostly granola, like nuts and stuff. And I'll have that with like a little almond milk. So it's a little boring what I have. But hey, I'm not losing the weight I used to, but I could feel that it's shifting. This is an extra large shirt. I couldn't fit into extra large shirts since I was probably freshman year of high school. And I just bought size 35 jeans, which I don't even remember the last time. I know when I got married, before it was annulled in 99, I was 38. So and the funny thing about it is, any of you out there that's lost a decent amount of weight, I think you'll probably agree with me on this. Tell me that even if you lost 50 pounds, 100 pounds, you still feel like you haven't lost anything. I mean, you see it and you feel it when you put in smaller clothes. But as far as your body, you still feel like you're the 100 pounds heavier. I still feel like I weighed 320 and I lost 70. I still feel like that. And my high point was 365. I showed you the pictures early this year of me at 365 not that long ago. So, but I still feel like I haven't lost anything. I mean, I can see the difference, but physically, I still feel like I'm this big. No joke. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is. Mega McCats. Is there a wrestling event I regret not going to, but had the chance to go? Oh, yeah. Probably the one that I regret the most is WrestleMania 1. Had the chance to go. Could have gotten tickets. My grandmother asked me if I wanted to go, God rest her soul. And I don't remember the reason why. It's not that my mom wasn't going to let us. My mom started to let me go to wrestling shows in 1983. 82? It was sometime between late 82 or early 83. And my mom was going to let us, but for some reason, I said, no, I'm not going to go. And my grandmother would not go without me. My brother was never really a big wrestling fan. So it used to be just me and my grandmother when we would go. And my Uncle Mikey when he was alive as well, because he worked for WWF. But other than that, you know, I regret WrestleMania 1. There's other events that I regret over the years. There's a few personal friends that I had the opportunity to see them work and do some other things. I regret not doing some of the Florida shows that the Masked Maniac did a couple of years ago. He offered me and I didn't go. The most infamous was that confusion between myself and New Jack, which was hilarious. I was going to manage someone who was going to face New Jack for Frank's promotion in Florida. Somehow, and I got to screenshot the old Facebook post because New Jack was on my personal Facebook page. And this has got to be, I don't know if it's 10 years ago. That sounds 2010. No, I would say maybe 2015, 16 maybe. And somehow he got, somebody told him that New Jack was facing me in Florida. And I think it was Mish that started blowing up my phone at like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, dude, did you see your personal Facebook page? And I'm like, no, what happened? Go to your Facebook page. Go now. And it was New Jack cursing me out, threatening me this, threatening me that. You don't know how to fuck. I'm close to retired, and if Frank, if you make me face it, I will cut this. And I was like, no, New Jack, I'm supposed to manage someone. Oh, my bad. That's exactly what New Jack would do. I take pride that I didn't become friendly with him. I would joke with him on Masked Maniac show, and I've told the story of New Jack calling me up in '96 when I had my car accident, and then I always vowed to return the favor. And when he got arrested in the 2000s, mid 2000s, I went on eBay and I bailed him out. That was my way of returning the favor. So I would, I did several podcasts with New Jack. Some of them are playing on Patreon right now. And I put it on there because it's something exclusive for them to enjoy. But this guy threatened everything on me. And the minute I said, no, New Jack, I'm sorry. I would never do that. I'm supposed to manage someone. And all he wrote back was, oops, my bad. That's it. My bad. And it was a good laugh. But it did scare the shit out of me a little bit. So I kind of regret doing some other shows. I had the opportunity to do a couple of chiller conventions in New York City. Vinny DeGuido, which some of you know, was trying to get me to go like 10 years ago. Dude, because of Deli Man stuff. He's like, come on, go, let's go, we'll have fun. You bring the Deli Man outfit. You could have your own table. I'm like, no, nobody wants to go to see me. And this, I regret not doing a lot more stuff. I regret not coming here on YouTube years earlier. I regret not taking some opportunities, but it's all good, man. It's all good. If some of those opportunities come along again, I've been asked to manage in 2021, 3 different feds. have contacted me and said, would you do the Don Tony thing again in the managing? One is in Long Island, one is in Jersey, and the other one I'm not sure. I never really looked into it all that much. I think the person might have just been blowing smoke. But I'm going to take as many opportunities that I can, you know. So, but WrestleMania 1 is probably the one that I kick myself in the ass the most about. You know, when I got to see Hogan win the title against the Iron Sheik, I had the newspaper clipping in my wallet probably for about 10 years. And then it just got stuck, and I think I tried to peel it. You know, in your wallet, especially when you have the plastic thing, you put your registration in the wallet, you leave it in there too long, and when you go to pull the registration out, all the ink is stuck to the plastic, and you with a blank. That's what happened with my article. But you know, I always will cherish the fact that you actually see me when Hogan's walking down the aisle. You see me and my friend Vinny and like this, so that's pretty cool. But let's see, Michael Articolo. In 1996, he really enjoyed Sunny's work as a manager. Do I know why she was taken out of that role and put in what he thought was diminished role for the rest of a WWE run? Guest commentator, host, T-shirt model. I don't know, man. I know she did a shoot interview and talked about it a little bit. You know, we don't know if there was issues behind the scenes. I'll be honest with you. You know, Tammy was great with Chris Candido. And I think once Chris Candido's, you know, WWE career, WWF career, you know, they can go the way it was, and he went back to ECW. You know, WWE used her in a different role. They look, not too many women other than Miss Elizabeth, Sherry to a certain extent. You know, you didn't have too many women as managers, and Sunny, it was a hard time for her to click with a certain group. They tried, I think, LOD 2000, and it never really felt like it clicked. She did some stuff with the Godwins, if I remember. It was just, look, she was the most downloaded female in 1995. I remember it. So WWF wanted to use her more as a T-shirt model, a poster girl. You mentioned posters. She sold insane amounts of merch. 95, parts of 96. So that's where they better utilized her. You know, it's like I said, it's probably better to hear it out of her mouth. I'm pretty sure she talked about it on her shoot interview. But as far as perception, they were using her and making money. And like I said, I don't know if there was personal issues behind the scenes. You always heard the rumors of her and Brett, her and Sean, her and this person. Then you heard rumors of other things. You know, it would be disrespectful for me to guess or speculate, you know. And I know some of you are out there like, why do you keep cutting Tammy a break? You know, I actually know a little bit of Tammy personally. I've dealt with her personally. And she actually is a much nicer person than is perceived online. Tammy, to me, other than obviously alcohol and other things, but her number one problem online is she tries to deal with trolls by trolling them back. And, you know, that gets her in trouble. You know, sometimes you got to just block and ignore, block and ignore, block and ignore. I know easier said than done when I keep talking about it myself, but I'm not Tammy, obviously. I don't have that kind of following. AJ Blair, he knows that I said that Omega was going to go over on Moxley, which ended up happening. Did I think there was a plan or arrangement made in the beginning to move the belt around 3 to 4 guys with everyone getting their shot? He asked this because Jericho wins. First he has the name, and he gets it for 6 months. Then he drops it to the next guy. Mox, about 6 months as well. And he thinks for this potential title drop, basically what he's saying is that, you know, 6-month run goes from Jericho to Mox, 6-month run, it goes from Mox to Omega. Look, 2020 has been thrown to a loop. So bad that, you know, they went with Mox. Look, Mox won PWI Wrestler of the Year, which, you know, it's not, doesn't have the credit used to be, but that's still a pretty cool honor to have. And a lot of people didn't disagree with it. So Mox earned what he got. And I tell you, even if you don't like AEW, you have to admit one thing. Jon Moxley had a very smooth transition from Dean Ambrose to Jon Moxley. Like when I think of both names, I actually put Moxley here and Ambrose here. You know, and that doesn't happen all the time with a lot of people. You know, some people, I still look at Rusev and Miro, because Miro hasn't done, you know, what they are going to have him do yet. 2021, you got plenty of time to do what they plan on doing. But as far as the title goes, because of COVID, everything has been stretched out. I don't know if Moxley would have had as long of a run if, you know, COVID didn't happen. I think it's no question putting the tag titles on the Young Bucks, putting the heavyweight title on Kenny Omega, they see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as COVID goes. So I personally think the Young Bucks probably would have gotten the tag titles much earlier this year if COVID would have never struck. So, you know, I think the decision-making now was heavily influenced because of COVID. So we'll see what happens once COVID is out of here. A lot of people say by the summer it should be all but gone. We'll see. Hopefully we don't get a COVID-20 or COVID-21. But, you know, I think you really can't just look at it as far as the amount of time. But somebody did point out to me that AEW's first 3 heavyweight champions are from Canada. Insane Sundu, 510. Which WrestleMania match had a more intense lead-up? Rock versus Cena, WrestleMania 28, or Macho Man Hogan, WrestleMania 5? No question. And younger fans out there, if you didn't live through WrestleMania 5 and just watching it from the network, you wouldn't understand. You have to be a wrestling fan from that era with no social media, no internet, and following it on TV and the magazines, and to really get that authentic feel. For me, it's not even close. Hogan, Macho Man had the more intense build. Rock and Cena had a very long time to hype up their match, but up until close to the end of the build-up, it just felt like, okay, they announced it early. We'll see where it goes. This is that. The feud is building. But it didn't feel intense until the very end, leading up to it. And what's cool is, I know there's another question on this list that has to do with Cena, and I'll bring up The Rock again in that question. But the intensity of Hogan and Savage, the intensity of Savage by himself, and putting Miss Elizabeth in the equation, and Saturday night's main event, you know, I still remember it to this day. I have, believe it or not, I swear on a stack of Bibles, and if you push me, I have the box inside. I won't do it now. Next episode, somebody puts it in the comment section, DT, don't forget the tape. I have inside my original VHS tape for WrestleMania 5 that I recorded from cable TV. You'll see my handwriting as a kid, and it says WrestleMania 5 with the label, and I always kept it because I'll never forget. Vince McMahon, the Mega Powers explode! You know, it was huge, huge. I mean, Cena Rock was huge also, but intense-wise, it's not even close, my opinion. Javier Bryan Fegohapi. Yeah, Hapai. Javier Bryan Feoko Happy. Feoko Happy. So if we didn't get the pandemic, between Cody, Kenny Omega, or Hangman Page, if we didn't get the pandemic, between Cody, Omega, or Hangman Page, who would you say would turn on the Elite against the Inner Circle at Blood and Guts? For me, it would have been Hangman Page. I don't know why they stopped. Remember I don't know if it was Shivani, I think it was Jim Ross. I do know. Was it Jim Ross? No, it was Shivani, I think. Look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. You remember Hangman Page when he had that evil in his eyes? I thought that was awesome. And for some reason, they just didn't go with that. I know COVID screwed everything up. Hangman Page for a while wasn't even on TV, people remember. But I thought, man, what a missed opportunity to have Hangman Page keep that psycho character about him and never amounted to anything. And yeah, they could bring it back, but man, the blood and guts. Look, some of you out there were actually right, like Mike and others, like, yeah, DT, he's telling the truth. We were going to go. I mean, we were planning on going to see, I was looking to get tickets and everything. Like, we were really pushing. In fact, I had the opportunity, I think, to buy like 3 or 4 tickets, but they were kind of pricey, but they were like second row tickets. We were going to go to that. I think Hangman Page would have been the one to turn. And, but obviously it wasn't what it was. Look, they still have not done the storyline of who attacked Moxley. Now, they may end up making it somebody from Impact Wrestling. Sami Callihan? Don't know. But it doesn't feel consistent at all. In fact, Vince Russo, I know a lot of you don't like him, but he made a phenomenal point about making Moxley this loose cannon that shows up on Impact and, just does his own thing. He loses to Omega 2 weeks ago by, what they're trying to push as a screw job. Why isn't Moxley in storyline the first person on last week's show and will, insist on causing chaos because he got screwed the week before? How does Moxley go off TV for 2 weeks? Just think about that storyline. Why would Moxley just go home? I mean, that's something that I'm going to talk about on Wednesday, and I may even talk about it tonight with Mish when we do Breakfast Soup Raw, I should say. That's a bigger deal than you think. The whole Moxley character, him not showing up the following week to cause chaos because he got screwed, looking for Tony Khan's head, there's a little bit of a problem there. So, and would Finn Balor stay in NXT to become NXT champion for the second time or go to NXT UK to be the one to beat Walter at TakeOver Dublin for the UK championship? I think Finn Balor because of the injury. Look, I was 100% right when I said 2.5 months ago that this guy's going to be out 4 to 5 months, with the injury. He is not wrestling until New Year's Eve. And I brought this up last week. That will be, it's slightly less than 4 months, so maybe I wasn't on point. But everybody was saying he'll be back in a couple of weeks. I said, no, this is months because you can't expedite bone surgery. He would not have wrestled for 13 and a half weeks. That's almost 3.5 months. They never took the belt off of him. So right now you have to rebuild Finn Balor. Finn Balor's awesome. This isn't his fault. It's not his fault. Even the last 2 weeks that I've talked about numerous times. The cat is back. And then he leaves, doesn't show up the following week. That's all on WWE. Right now, I would not do anything different with Finn Balor. I obviously would have had him wrestle if he could, or strip him of the title. He could have won it back, but it just goes to show you that for 13 and a half weeks, there's no backup plan. None. Makes the William Regal character look kind of goofy, to be honest with you. Character, not the person. J.R. Bloom. Do I think pro wrestling ever sees a period like the 80s with Hogan or the 90s with the Attitude Era? Never on that level, because there just isn't a crop of wrestlers just sitting out there that could blow the roof off as far as revenue. You will have some peaks and valleys, but you got to go back to the 80s. You had so many different feds still going. ECW wasn't even a thing yet. A lot of the wrestlers of tomorrow were just breaking into the business. So, in the 90s, even some of those wrestlers didn't even have long careers on TV yet, and a lot of people were just being built. You look today, and a lot of the wrestlers are already in their 40s. In some cases, already exceeded 50. And I'm not saying they can't do it, but the thing is that you don't have like these magic, Uber, just take over social media and take over the internet as far as a crazy storyline could do that. But as far as the wrestlers, you just don't have names like that just staying out there. And even the very young wrestlers who are breaking in 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, even those wrestlers, it feels like the ones coming up are more in tag teams than anything else. You don't really see much of a breakout start. So, no, I don't ever think it'll be on that. I mean, just numbers-wise and the amount of revenue coming in. I mean, WWE's making crazy-ass revenue, but that's because of the network and digital media. And, as far as TV goes, I don't think it'll ever... I don't think we're at our highest. I definitely think wrestling could get back, and I've even made the prediction recently that Wednesday Night Wrestling, if AEW and NXT are still on the same night together, I think within the next couple of months, you're going to have 1 quarter hour or maybe more that breaks 2 million. I'm telling you, it's not that far away. Last week, you had moments that broke 1.8 million. Nobody talked about it. They only care about demos or the overall. So wrestling is not at its peak right now. It definitely will get bigger numbers, but not on the level of the 8-10 million fan. No, never be on that again. We're in a different era. It's just things that were unbelievably over, not just wrestling, but just things that were unbelievably over in the 80s and the 90s or even the 2000s are no longer, in. I mean, it's still enjoyable to a certain extent, but fads, I'm not saying wrestling was a fad, but things over the years, they lose a little bit of their luster. And you could try to bring it back. You could try to claim you're reinventing it, recreate it, but it's never what it originally used to be. I hate leftists. Have they had any trouble with FedEx since the infamous Sherry's Berries incident in 2015? FedEx, to be honest with you, no. In fact, I have a problem right now with Laser Ship that I ordered Zevia soda. I'm sure some of you drink it. And I only buy it from Amazon. And what happened was I ordered it, and the tracking for Laser Ship said that the items were damaged. It was being sent back to the vendor, which is Amazon. And 3 hours later, the tracking gets updated and says delivered at my house. I never got it. So I already, I'm getting replacement. I ordered 3 cases. So, it's not a big deal. It's just soda. But the point is, Laser Ship once in a while is a little iffy. But ever since they added the requirement that their delivery drivers take a picture of the location where they leave the box, when they leave the box, especially in front of your house, they take a picture of your front porch with the box sitting there. This way, if you claim, I never got it, they got a picture of it sitting on your porch. Ever since they did that, things have been much, much better. I had a problem with 1-800-Flowers last year or the year before, and I even played some footage of it online. It's not necessarily the shipping companies, it's the companies themselves. 1-800-Flowers, I would never use them ever again. I used FTD, fuck you. Never use you ever again. I now use a local florist for all my stuff. But I can honestly say I really have not had any problems with any carrier services. I had more of a problem with the post office up until last year. because where I work, I'm on the second floor, and the postman sometimes, if I leave to go to the post office, ironically, or the bank, or I do some errands in the neighborhood, and the postman thinks I'm coming back, he'll leave the box in front of my office door. Anybody could walk by and just take it. Or he'll leave it in the hallway. People walk upstairs and downstairs because there's a lawyer on my floor and a few other things. People have walked away with boxes before. So I took my postman aside and I'm like, please, don't ever leave anything in front of my door or, in the hallway, because people are going to walk up and take it away. If I'm not there, leave it with my, neighbor next door, or leave it in the store downstairs, but don't leave it in front of my door. Because you remember a couple of years ago, I bought a computer for my dad, all in one, and it went missing. And it ended up that the freaking FedEx guy left it in front of my door. And somebody did take it. But what ended up happening was my 2 doors down is a real estate. And they took it because it was sitting outside, and they brought it in their office so nobody would steal it. They were closed for 3 days. So it was sitting in their office. I had no idea it was there. They didn't leave a note or tell me, hey, Anthony, I have your computer in my office. No, I called FedEx screaming and yelling. Where's my computer? This isn't a cheap little thing. And they're like, no, we got to track down the driver and this and that. And then 3 days later, my neighbor says, oh, here's your computer. It is what it is. Jim Cornette has often said on his podcast that Shane is his favorite McMahon. Do I have a favorite McMahon? I will always appreciate Vince McMahon for giving me, yes, I became a fan in 79, so we won't count 70s. 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now 2020s. Gave me 5 decades of wrestling to be in my life. Yes, ECWs will always be my favorite promotion of all time. Being involved in wrestling, albeit on a small scale in my neck of the woods, be my favorite of all time as well. Getting the opportunity to do some stuff with XPW and others, awesome. But Vince McMahon, I don't care how out of touch I care, obviously. And I don't like that he's out of touch, obviously. And a lot of influence outside world, which leads to some of the crap that we see on TV. But for all of the decades of him, putting out a product, yes, the wrestlers themselves are the ones that entertain me for the most part, but Vince will always be my favorite. Shane McMahon is my second favorite. My third favorite is Stephanie. Fourth is Linda. I don't put Triple H in there because Triple H, was Triple H even before he got married. So Vince will always be my favorite. But if you put Vince aside, Shane, by far, over Stephanie. Stephanie, I always, when I was a lot younger, I had a little crush on her. I'm not going to lie. When she got the boob job, I actually didn't like it. When she had that frizzy hair, I thought that was, you ruined it, damn it. But Stephanie is nice as well. But Shane, I put Shane above Stephanie, just my opinion. David Marcantonio. See, I screw up everybody else's names, but the Italianos, I get perfect. David Marcantonio. Now, he'll probably say to me, I'm not even Italian, but what was my favorite Godfather movie? Godfather 2. I've told this before. One of the most expensive movie purchases I ever bought, and one of the greatest ones. And they still sell it on eBay, believe it or not. Godfather 1 came out in the 70s. I was too young. I ended up watching it over 100 times throughout my lifetime, and most of it because my father would watch it. I sit there and watch it with him. Godfather 1. Godfather 2 came out a little bit later on. Godfather 2, loved it as well. Godfather 3 was drizzling shits. But what happened was they came out with a version of The Godfather. And this was VHS at the time. They came out with a version of The Godfather that went in chronological order. If you go back and you watch this Godfather 2, there's a lot of flashbacks. You see Robert De Niro, you see a kid, you see, Vito Corleone, you see Al Pacino. So there'd be a lot of flashbacks. There was a version that they put everything in chronological order. So you saw originally when Vito Corleone was Vito Andolini, and it went all the way up. And I bought that for my father, and I think I paid $119 for 3 VHS tapes. It's either $119 or $149. Back then, VHS tapes were insanely expensive. Put it this way, for all of you out there that are younger, movies would come out on VHS tape, $79.99 if you wanted to buy it. $39.99 if you wanted one VHS tape. When I started bootlegging ECW tapes on eBay 20 plus years ago, and I started buying cases of VHS tapes and realizing that I could buy a VHS tape for 79 cents. Yes, I know VHS tapes were more expensive in the 80s than the 90s, but it wasn't that much more money. So when you realize that they were selling one tape for $80, yet the tape probably cost $5 to make it, we got hammered when we were young. Even CDs, we would buy CDs, $15, $20, and then when you realize you could burn them and duplicate them, you could buy a stack of 50 for $10, $15. Wait, the disc only cost me 10 cents? I have some, no joke, I have some old Italian customers from my neighborhood. They're in the 70s and 80s. They don't go on the internet. And they had, like one hears it from another, and next thing you know, a whole bunch of Italian guineas, they're all saying to me, hey, Anthony, can you do this for me? And like, they love Italian music, but they have no way to get it. So they're like, hey, Anthony, any way you can make me up a disc of all Italian music and this and that? One day I'm going to take a picture of my computer screen inside so you can see the screenshot. I have folders of nothing but Italian music from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. I don't listen to any of it. Lasciatemi cantare, oratità del mano, lasciatemi cantare, piano, piano. I don't fucking listen to that. But so I do it as a favor, and I made a disc for someone. You had to see all these, if I was a 70-year-old widow woman, and I'm looking to meet a guy, I would have been in cloud nine, but I had all these 70-year-olds, hey, I heard you made this CD. Could you make me one? And it's that. And I became the DJ for elderly Italians in my neighborhood. So, they would say to me, oh, let me give you $10 for it. Let me give you $20 for it. I'm like, no, the disc cost me 10 cents. It doesn't cost you 10 cents. Don't lie to me. And then I would show them the screenshot on Amazon. Holy shit, it is 10 cents. And then I get nothing. But thanks. So my favorite Godfather movie, if you want me to individually break it down, Godfather 2. Not even close. Godfather 3, when Al Pacino was old, I hated that movie. When they were on the steps, I think his daughter got shot, and there's no sound. You just see him going. I wish I was an extra in that movie. I would have kicked him when I walked by. So. Devin M., not wrestling related, but how me and my parents. Thank you for asking. I really appreciate that. My father, he still got a little bit of a cold. The pneumonia is pretty much gone. My mom, she's got, her heart issues. She's got bad pain in her back. You saw that quick little video that I put on Twitter Thursday when I was over their house playing hooky. You see it for about 2 seconds. You see my mom. And she obviously has gotten bigger, and she just too much pain, not enough energy, and that results in tremendous weight gain, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. She was at a doctor today, and they're going to set up like 3 epidural shots in her back to relieve some back pain. This way maybe she could move around a little bit more, and she sees how good I feel and how good I'm doing. I still got tremendous pain because of my accident, but other things, things don't hurt as much like they used to. And I keep saying to him, Ma, just cut out soda, cut out cake, cut out 2-3 things. Even if you drop 10, 20 pounds. I tell people all the time that I know personally that bring up my weight loss, Next time any of you out there in a grocery store, pick up a 5-pound bag of flour or a 5-pound bag of sugar. Just pick it up, put it in your hands. And then when you realize that if you just lose 20 pounds, you lose 4 of those bags of sugar or flour. You hold one and you're like, holy shit, is this heavy? And realize that that's only 5 pounds. I told my mother, I'm like, next time you go pick up that flour in that closet, realize you lose 10 pounds. That's 2 bags of this heavy, heavy flour that's off your pressure of your joints and everything. So she's having it rough. But I'm going to see them tomorrow, and I'll see them Thursday. And, that's pretty much the rotation. I am going to spend Christmas with them. So December 25th, I don't know if there's going to be an edition of the Don Tony show for the 25th. Right now it's still up in the air. Who knows? We may have tremendously horrible weather, and I end up staying home. We'll see. But, I appreciate you asking that. They're doing, as best as they could. Kevin K, have I ever loved a woman so badly it made me cry? Yeah. When I got married and then got the marriage annulled. I went from getting married to 6 months later it being over. And don't get me wrong, I look back on it and it was the best decision I ever did. Not even close. Best decision I ever did was to get that marriage erased. I realized that, I think because of my car accident, I kind of felt for someone a little bit more than I should have. And she turned out to be a psycho. You got Al Bundy, psycho dad, psycho dad, psycho dad. No, this was psycho wife, psycho wife, psycho wife. Definitely. Trust me, if I was still with her, these shows would not be going on. My fiance now, she's a fan of wrestling. She's the boss. She allows me to do this stuff, just as long as it doesn't overlap too much of our private life. But, I was, put it this way, and this is no BS. When I broke up with my ex in 1999, I was more embarrassed to my family than anything else because my father paid for that wedding. I have the wedding video. I have never watched it since 1999. I won't put it in. I won't look at it. I don't think I should. I always wanted to look at it, see my grandparents again, my father's side, because they're no longer here. My grandmother, the one who got me into wrestling, she died in 1991, so, she wasn't in that video. But I never watched that video again, but, I just felt like, wow, my father just broke the bank to have this unbelievable wedding, and 6 months later it's over. I felt I felt like I really disappointed my family. And I felt so guilty for a very long period of time. So there was some tears shed, not only because of the relationship, I'm like, why did this have to be the way it is? But even in hindsight, I think my parents are ecstatic that I didn't stay with that woman. So, yeah. King Bling Blah. What is my favorite wrestling event that I attended live and why? As far as live events, any ECW show I went to from the 90s. Even when I got to push tickets for ECW in 2000 and 2001, albeit just for a month, in 2001, but 2020, 2000 for the whole year, not 2020. That was awesome. Sitting front row and hanging out with Paul Heyman and the ECW people in the back and, Guilty as Charged 2000 was probably my favorite memory simply because of everything that went on that day. I was pushing tickets for ECW. I made a little bit of money. I got to sit in front row as a thank you. Got to, meet Cyrus, you see him now, Don Callis with Kenny Omega, hung out with Paul Heyman in the back, and any of you out there that remember Smoked Out, they used to do the Minority Report with us, and he wrestled for CZW as well. He's still around, he's still alive, ask him. He was my guest. It was him, me, and 2 women. And we hung out backstage and eating, and then the running joke was that Spike Dudley got food poisoning from my father's heroes and threw up all over the floor, which was a true story, but it wasn't because of my father's heroes. Meeting some other guys in the back, you know, Francine using my father's hero as a prop on a segment on the pay-per-view. That was and, you know, being able to plug my hotline at the time as well. That was pretty cool, man. RVD, you know, I don't remember which event it was also, but he had a match with, it was either Jerry Lynn or who did the clap? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. He did with Buff Bagwell. Shit. As soon as we finish the show, I'll remember who he was. But he did the clap. I think he had the match with RVD. I'm sorry for forgetting his name. Brain fart. You don't have to write in the comment section because I'll remember it. But, you know, like they did the dive like right next to us. And it was cool, man. It was really cool. Damn, I'm kind of like mad. You know, I almost want to like pause the show for a second and pull his name up. Oh, it's like right on the tip of my tongue too. It's right at the tip of my tongue. Scotty Anton. I don't know how that came across on the video, but I paused it for a second and I did the Google search. So I never paused a YouTube recording in process. But if that came off pretty good, that's actually nice because I could pause. You know, obviously I'm not doing this in front of a live audience right now, but in the future when I do pre-recorded stuff, if I have to like get up for a second or, you know, I have to do pee-pee, I could just pause it, do what I have to do, come right back. Then I could always just record it locally and then upload it to YouTube. So, Scotty Anton. I wouldn't be able to finish the show unless I mentioned his name. So, yeah, Scotty Anton, that's what it was. He had a match with Scotty Anton. I remember they dove right in front of us. And I had met them earlier, and it was pretty cool. I mean, RVD cut a promo for my old wrestling hotline at the time, which was a lot of fun. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. What is a wrestling event that I would have wanted to have attended live but didn't? And why would I have wanted to be live for that show? This isn't the same question that was asked earlier. This is a show that I would have liked to have gone but couldn't for obvious reasons. That would be WrestleMania 3. You know, just being a wrestling fan as a kid and them hyping up 93,000 people. I mean, it was a big deal. So I would have loved to have been in WrestleMania. See, WrestleMania 1, I could have gone, but didn't. WrestleMania 3, I wanted to go, but couldn't. Wasn't in my neck of Pontiac Silverdome. What am I going to do? Ma, could you give me money for a plane ticket? I don't even think I was on a plane yet at that time. First time I ever went on a plane was when I went to Italy in high school. Junior high school. First time I ever went on a plane. No joke. So... But, yeah, I would have loved to have gone to WrestleMania 3. I would have kept my ticket stub because if you notice over the years, 5 million people have claimed to have been at WrestleMania 3. You know, so I would want to keep my proof as receipt of it. Gary Vaughn, what is the best Christmas gift I have ever had or the best Christmas present I have ever received? And happy holidays to you, too. You know, Mish and I had a little convo about this on Patreon last week. As a kid, my favorite Christmas gift ever was Atari when it first came out, 2600. I still remember literally setting it up with the Christmas tree right next to the TV and playing that till when Combat came with it. And we play, you look at, anybody wants a good laugh, go on YouTube and just type in Combat Atari 2600. Just now imagine me and my brother playing that game for about 8 hours. You play it for 20 minutes now, you'd be like, no! I mean, we just ate it up. I mean, that Atari game just was epic for us. And I remember we got Space Invaders, and if anybody remembers, I think if you held the reset button down and then turned it on, you got double bullets. Oh, man, that was awesome. It was awesome. But then, you know, it started to wear out because I would go to like the local candy store and play like Pac-Man, later Miss Pac-Man, Dig Dug, and then Donkey Kong, and then you'd get the Atari version. Like, this is nothing like Pac-Man. I mentioned it last week as well. I mean, I have inside Pac-Man. You turn it on. You turn on Ataris, it goes. It was so bad. And then it wasn't even pellets. It was like bars. Oh, it was so. I mean, you tried your hardest to pretend that it was an awesome game, but it was god-awful compared to the real thing. So Atari was probably my favorite. And I know this sounds really corny, but every year that goes by now that I could still spend it with my parents, that they're still on this earth, is the ultimate Christmas gift. I know it sounds kind of corny to some of you out there, but I really mean it. You know, if I had to give everything up to be guaranteed that I could spend another 5 years or 10 years with my parents, I would do it in a second. Tomorrow's never guaranteed. And, you know, it's just something that I cherish more than anything. That's why, like I say, you know, if you got family, don't and you get along, don't take it for granted. I never want to be one of those people. If I only told them I loved them, if I only spent more time, if I only did this. Nah, man. I'm a mama's boy and I admit it. But, you know, I spend every year that goes by now that I have my family, even my fiance also with them. Can't ask for anything more. Only I just wish my dog was still around, you know. Danny Morgan. What's up, Danny? When I was about to end podcasting after Superstorm Sandy, do I think that it would pretty much be podcast? Did I ever think I would be podcasting this much? When I started YouTube, it feels like there was a resurgence. Danny, you are 1,000% right. And it pisses me off that I have to feel guilty about saying that it reinvigorated me. I have to feel guilty because it lit a fire under my ass. I have to feel guilty because it makes me happy. I have to feel guilty because I'm doing all this extra work. I have to feel guilty because you actually get to see the person behind the voice. I have to feel guilty because I look forward to doing these shows. Like it's like a holiday. Like, you know, like sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'm tired. I don't get a good night's sleep the night before, and Raw sucks. And it's like, man, the last thing I want to do is a show right now. And I try not to make excuses. I mean, I think the only shows that I have missed so far, I went away. I mean, I would love to take a show off here and there. But, you know, you got to understand something, too. I mean, you know, there's an old saying, if you really enjoy doing what you're doing, it doesn't feel like a job. And that's how this feels right now. But what was really affecting the previous shows, especially on Mondays, was that I wanted to take off like once a month. Figuring, okay, get a little mental break. You build up anticipation. You know, it's almost like in a relationship, if you feel it's getting complacent or a little bit old, like you don't see each other for a week and you build up that anticipation. And what I realized is, and this was like 3-4 years ago, this was happening, I realized that if I take off, I still got to edit, I still got to record, I still got to upload, I still got to put stuff together. And, you know, it just was like, okay, I'm never getting a Monday off, even if I want to. And if I'm like, look, I'm not going to be around, I can't record, I can't do, then there'd be no show. And it's like, you know, you almost like stuck in a corner that you're forced to do. So this right now, this is awesome. And, you know, the only thing that really annoys me about all of it is, even to this day, there's some very bitter people out there that, you know, are always tried to give me the guilt trip that because other people, you know, were complacent. And don't get me wrong, and I say this with the utmost respect. People who do podcasts, they don't have to do video. They don't have to do, YouTube. They don't have to do 3 a week. They don't have to do this. They don't have to do 2 hours. They don't have to do an hour. They can do whatever they want. But if someone else wants to do more, I don't think it's fair to have people miss out and not do what they want to do because certain people don't want to do the same. And like I said, and trust me, when we did the change on Monday, it wasn't like Mish was sitting at the sidelines just waiting for the change and then swooping right in there. That's not the original plan. But like I said, when I thought moving it to Tuesday, we did it 2 or 3 times, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But like I said, when you have people publicly writing those 2-3 weeks, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm actually enjoying the vibe and this and that. And at the same time, cursing me out and putting me down in DMs with other people, you kind of left with like a little sour taste in your mouth. And you're like, oh, okay. It is what it is. But I think in the end, it's best for everybody. Because like I say, I am having a ball right now. I want to do a show every single day. But, if you've noticed over the last 6 months, one thing that is basically straightened itself out, which is great, is Monday a Raw recap and a couple of news tidbits mixed in. Tuesday is Patreon, where anything goes, gets very raw and personal sometimes, or it could be all wrestling. It's basically whatever our patrons want us to get into. Tuesday is Patreon night. Wednesday is NXT and AEW. Thursday is my day off for the most part. Friday is Smackdown ratings for AEW, NXT, a couple other news tidbits. And then on the weekend is Q&A, Patreon, pay-per-view, whatever falls in for that. So it's 6 out of 7 days. And it's getting organized because like Monday is mostly Raw talk and a couple of little tidbits. Wednesday is NXT and AEW. Friday is this. Sunday is this. Tuesday is this. So it's really starting to organize itself, and that will allow us to do the additional stuff on YouTube. So I'm still in the opening process of this change, but I think 2021. Last night, like I said, I was on the phone with Mish, and for 3 hours, we were excited. Talking about this and what if we did that? Oh, what if we did this? And it's just like when you got that kind of energy and you got, people that really are going out of the way, and it's sad because, there's a lot of people who, promise big things and then it never comes. There's a couple of people that I still follow on social media that are really good guys. Oh, they promised this, they were going to do this, and they do one episode and it just dies off. And then you got other people who will promise big things, and then when they realize that there's nobody there to do everything for them, it doesn't happen either. So that's why we focus just on our product and whatever we could do to make it better. But I really thank you, Danny. I'm glad that you see that. Like I said, I could fake laugh on audio only, and I fake laughed once in a while, but, you see video, you could see the authenticity coming across. And it's also cool to be able to show you things and get a little animated and, goof on myself a little bit. I think some people out there take themselves way too seriously. Nobody cares what color you are, what sexual orientation you are. It doesn't matter if you're fat or skinny. It doesn't matter if you have acne or not. It doesn't matter if, you're bald or have long hair. Everybody just wants to be a family and get along. And, that's one thing that I love about doing this. Everybody seems to get along for the most part. You'll always get a little haters here and there, and you'll always get a little bit of noise, but, full steam ahead. Dayhawk, he started to relive the rivalry between Triple H and Steve Austin leading up to the 2 out of 3 falls match in No Way Out. Did I like the way it ended, or did I prefer it to end differently? I'll say this. Over the years, there's been a lot of feuds and a lot of matches that I wish would have ended differently. I never really looked at Steve Austin and Triple H and say, how cool would it have been if this happened instead of this? Or, you could do that going back to the 80s. You got to understand, and this is, I think, something a lot of people forget also, that certain decisions that happen in wrestling, matches, outcomes, pushes, de-pushes, you may not like or dislike that particular moment. You may like it, you may hate it, but that as a result leads to this. That as a result leads to this. So it's not just you could close that chapter between Triple H and Steve Austin and be like, oh, okay, this should have ended this way. Well, if it would have ended this way, then maybe this person wouldn't have been next in line, or maybe this feud wouldn't have happened, or then would have happened here and this and that. So sometimes I don't like the outcomes. Look, I think the one that as a kid always pissed me off is the Snuka Morocco cage match. Morocco is my second favorite wrestler of all time, but Snuka's in my top 5 as well. And I wanted Snuka to beat Morocco in that cage. Didn't happen. He did the Superfly after when Morocco, narrowly escaped the cage. But my point is, as a kid, I always thought to myself, I wonder what would have happened if Snuka would have beaten Morocco for the IC title at that time. But then I think about what transpired with Morocco afterwards. And then you think about, other feuds that he had. You think about Snuka against Piper, and you think about Snuka against this person, and maybe things wouldn't have ended up the way they did if he was a champion. So I look at the bigger picture sometimes. And you could go up and down the line. You could go as recent as 2020. You could go with decisions being made for, anybody getting a win. Sometimes it leads to other opportunities for other people out there. Favorite John Cena promo during his Word Life years. This is not a cop-out, but on YouTube, there is a montage up right now. If you look up John Cena best raps freestyles, you'll see about, I think, 7 to 10 minutes worth of his stuff. I watched some of it earlier to get a little refresher. I forgot the stuff about Brock Lesnar. They used to cut. I forgot about Brian Kendrick with the rap battle, the Kurt Angle stuff that he did, the time, and I played this a few times on the History Show when Cena pissed on Undertaker's tombstone. The stuff he did with The Rock when he was feuding for WrestleMania 2012. There were so many. There is no one favorite for me, but you go on YouTube and search that out. There are so many gems out there that you forget about. He had some good ones feuding with Jericho. He's had some priceless ones, man. He did a few that, there's so many. But the Brock Lesnar one I had totally forgot about. Just go back, and I'm not talking Brock Lesnar of now. I'm talking about 2000s. Some funny shit, man. Thugonomics, even when it came back for a little cameo here and there in recent years, it wasn't the same, obviously. But, I always liked when he would talk about nuts and just throw a bag of nuts and stuff like that. But Thugonomics was awesome. It was awesome. Least favorite type of weather? Probably snow, because I don't enjoy shoveling. Especially my parents. I got to do it for them. I want to do it, but it's not fun. It's not fun when you got to go pick up a check from someone because they don't want to leave their house, and you got to dig yourself out, or if you park in front of their place and there's no place to park, and then you got to double park, and then I don't like snow. I like a couple of inches, but not tremendous amounts of snow. George Ford, has AEW reached its peak with finding new talent to improve their product? Is it possible they could compete with WWE in the near future? I don't think they'll ever be on a level with WWE unless they get a bigger deal with TNT down the line, and they start convincing wrestlers to leave WWE to work a more part-time schedule with AEW for same money or comparable money, then you might see something. But like I said, you realize that WWE has Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and then they got NXT UK, and then you got other outlets. They have a much deeper talent pool than AEW. And you have some creative minds, yes, some a little bit out of touch, but on the snap of a finger, you could have something major go down on NXT. So I don't think AEW will ever be on the level of WWE, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Sometimes you remember when Paul Heyman said ECW got too big? You don't want a small promotion, get too big. And you don't want a big promotion get too small. And that actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So I personally think there's nothing wrong with AEW being a smaller, solid number 2 promotion. All right. Yes, it doesn't have the network. It doesn't have merchandise, the depth videos and stuff like that. They have shirts, but they have figures and some belts. But my point is, there's nothing wrong with AEW being smaller. So, and yes, they can get more talent. And especially, you have some wrestlers right now, because of COVID, they're not touring. But you get back to touring a little bit, you have some wrestlers that just want a little bit of an easier schedule, and they could get a nice little deal with AEW. They'll take it. They'll take it. I think this level, like, you got a lot of old school wrestlers that are dedicated that they'll only work for Vince. And there's been some who have said over the years that they would only work for Vince, and then they don't. Because they realize their livelihood and their families are more important than loyalty to Vince McMahon, with all due respect. But I think as we get further and further into the 2020s, you have less and less wrestlers that feel that loyalty to WWE, unless they've been there for a very long period of time. So, no, AEW definitely can get bigger and sign more people. It's just the stars have to align. Joe Mauer, what genre of video games would be difficult for me to play? I don't like the fighting ones. Put it this way. It's not that I don't like them, but I'm just not very good, with changing all these weapons. Like, I see some of these podcasters go on Twitch, and I'm impressed. Me, I like to keep it simple. Lately, I've been on this crazy Uno kick. In fact, if any of you out there ever play Uno through Steam, you play and you do the online play, trust me, you'll come across, I swear on my mother, I don't know if Evil Uno plays Uno, and I'm not joking when I say Evil Uno plays Uno. Yesterday, I was playing Uno online at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And, sometimes they'll pop you into a game that's already in process. And one of the players, the name was Evil Uno. And it had a picture of Evil Uno's face. There's no way to chat during it. I was going to send a friend request for Uno, but I didn't. So I don't know if it was him. But if you play, and I guarantee you, especially if you know that I'm playing, you'll come across me on there. And I enjoy doing that. Plus, I like the arcade games. I like the old school arcade games. Keep it easy. You saw me. I put that 90-second clip on Twitter about a month ago, me playing Miss Pac-Man inside. I got the actual arcade game. And I did pretty good, I think. It was cool to cap it live and nail it, 15,000 points. No, actually, might have been 12,000 points. But, so I like to keep it simple. And thank you very much. We're not at 17,000 yet, as far as I know, but we're this close. And like I said, I want to earn everybody's, subscribing here. And look, if you're enjoying the show, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a like. And if you want to subscribe, please do. Like I said, Mish and I are going to start putting up little mini conversations. We're going to put up little clips, obviously, from some other shows, some good topics of discussion that a lot of you said, DT, you should put this out. When I did the talk about George Floyd, I know it's not wrestling, but when I did that earlier this year, I had a lot of people. And a lot of people are black, like Anthony. You got to put this up as a clip. Yes, it has nothing to do with wrestling, but my take on it was a very interesting take, especially as an Italian white guy from Queens, New York. Something I evolved in. And I never did because I think out of laziness, just as far as clips. Yesterday afternoon, I did one, like I said, about the Keith Lee Vince thing, and it got a really nice response. So, like I said, if you subscribe, you'll get alerted. If you hit the notification, you'll get alerted. But even when you log onto YouTube, you'll see some of my stuff pop up. So we're going to really start pushing it even further. You'll see. And I don't blow smoke. Anything that I announce, I'm prepared to back it up, as you've realized. So, Doug Eaton, in my opinion, which superstar over the years was my favorite special guest referee? I don't know, man. I always liked when Tyson did it. When he decked Shawn Michaels, it was more of a forearm, but I like Jesse Ventura when he did the special guest referee. I never really got into special guest referees, although, you know what? Ken Shamrock doing a special guest with Bret Hart, Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13, that was a lot of fun. Even as a kid, you'd have Gorilla Monsoon guest referee. You'd have this wrestler guest referee. I think even Bruno guest refereed one match. So I don't really have a particular favorite, but the Mike Tyson one was a big deal for me, the Enforcer. Obviously, he was just outside the ring. He didn't really do all that much, but I don't know. Special guest referees, as long as they don't go into business for themselves, especially if it's an actor, that's just trying to get, a little bit more attention on themselves. That's why I never liked the guest hosting, because some of them you could see would go a little bit further than what they were supposed to do because they just want to come across more solid. Especially like when someone's cutting a promo and the guest host would just interrupt them, not understanding like how promo exchanges work in wrestling, that, you usually don't interrupt the person all that much. That's why if you notice, even last week with Finn Balor, when he got interrupted by Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne and Damian Priest, like everybody got to say what they said, and then the music hit. So everybody gets 20, 30 seconds, and then the music hits. Joe Mauer, buy or sell what could have been the best storyline going forward? Magnum TA's push before his accident, or WWF versus USWA in 1993 until Jerry Lawler was accused? Yeah, I remember that with the hotel room and everything. I don't know, man. Magnum TA had a lot of momentum at that time, but it was regional. The WWF USWA thing would have been very difficult because the audience was not smart. And yes, sometimes you don't want a smart audience. The innocent, the storylines sometimes work out better. But you got to understand, ECW came around. NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling, 93, you started to see a little bit of a change. Joe Goodhart's promotion I talked about the last episode. He was around. So you had this element of extreme that was really starting to build like a little niche. And I think in 93, you could have gotten like a real interesting following from those who started to, as far as the underground and this and that. But it also depended on who feuded with who, not just Vince versus Jerry Lawler, because outside of Memphis, WWF fans weren't so into Jerry Lawler. When he did the Bret Hart Kiss My Foot match and stuff, like Jerry Lawler was an annoying heel, but I don't think you would have had hardcore fans really getting behind WWE. So I don't like either one, to be honest with you. But as far as like a good storyline at the time, I don't know. I probably would have enjoyed WWF versus USWA a little bit more. I mean, Magnum TA could have went a lot further in his career, but I don't know how far. You know, the longer, and look, he would have obviously been heavyweight champion, but it didn't happen. So, you know, you don't know what really could have been, especially, you know, you see wrestlers jump in promotions and sign. You don't know if WWF would have picked him up. I don't know if they would have. Kevon Lewis, what is the one state I would never go to, and what tag team is my favorite? I don't know if I would go to California again. I went to San Fran. I don't remember what Super Bowl it was, but the 49ers won like 49 to like 3 or something. It was like right around 1990, give or take a year. I was in San Francisco during that time. I had a lot of fun. Somebody would, you know, showed me, that prison, Alcatraz, you know, showed me that. We went driving, showed me, you know, like some of those. Anybody who lives in San Francisco, you know what I'm talking about. They would have like these huge slopes, and you'd see like houses like built like on slopes. This is before like the crazy earthquakes and everything. But I don't know. From what I see on TV with California, I think I would stay away from it at all costs. And that's a shame because I know there's a lot of you in California. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that because there's some areas of California that are outstanding. You know, I think I'm more talking about like LA, San Fran, you know, places like that. But other states, I don't know. I mean, I'm not thrilled about some of your politicians in California either. So right now, I would say California. You get a couple of politicians out of office over there, I probably have a change of view. And what tag team is my favorite right now? Favorite tag team right now? That's a good one. Favorite tag team right now? Wow. You know, when you think about it, I tell you, I always enjoy Breezango in NXT, but obviously, you know, WWE just totally misused those guys. Yes, there was injuries as well, but as far as WWE goes, well, you know what? You didn't say today, but I'll say of this era over the last 5-10 years, I'd say the Usos. The Usos. You know, I actually enjoy the Young Bucks. You know, when you understand their matches, you know, it's more enjoyable. You know, some of the real young talents they face, it exposes sometimes. Like I said, when you see the Young Bucks bending down, waiting an extra second to be hit, you know, to me that stands out. That's glaring. And there's a reason why, you know, their tag champs and others should be left on dark for a lot more seasoning before getting that kind of exposure. Just my opinion. The Inner Circle is hilarious as well. I actually would like to see Hager and Wardlow become a tag team. I think that dynamic would be hilarious. But if you go outside of the Usos and you say today, right now, Santana and Ortiz. Santana and Ortiz would be my favorite tag team of today. Joseph Acevedo, how did I meet my lady? Kind of met her on a dating app. No joke. Actually, let me explain because it's actually pretty funny. This is no joke. And I think maybe I'll have her do this on Patreon. I wouldn't do it on YouTube, but I'll have her come on. She's not here right now, but I'll have her come on for like 2 minutes on a Patreon show and I'll let her tell it too. And when she tells it, it's exactly to the T. 8.5 years ago, someone had told me to sign up for eHarmony. I wasn't looking to meet anybody, but at the same time, someone had said to me, "Oh, sign up," because he met his fiance and they were great together. So I said, you know what? hell with it. I'll do the questionnaire and I'll sign up. This is no joke. This is exactly how it went down. I filled out the questionnaire. It took like an hour and a half or something to answer all these questions. And I swear on a stack of Bibles, it showed me people that would be a good fit. And I'm going through all of these names and faces, and you get, I don't remember how it worked because it's been 8.5 years. I think you get like a notice or a like or something. And after like the first day, I didn't pay attention to it for about a week. Then I logged on, and there was a couple of, like messages, alerts back. And I kid you not, one of the alerts was my ex-wife that I told you earlier about, her friend that lived in Long Island. And she sent an alert and like, oh my God, did you ever think that we'd end up? And like, I thought about it for a second, like, like, would I be, because I knew who she was. We talked in the past, but I was like, I want to stay away from that whole, anywhere near that neighborhood, no, thank you. But when I went back after a week and I saw some of the things, some of the people, I'm like, yeah, this is just not for me. So I ignored it. I got a second alert from this one woman, and she got a kick out of my dog. My dog was still alive. I had a picture posted with me and my dog, because I guess everybody does that too. And she adored my dog, and she had 3 Yorkies, and I ignored it for the second time. So then she wrote back or said something like, oh, I guess you don't want to talk to me and this and that. So I've kind of felt bad because I wasn't trying to come across as a creep. Dating apps were not for me. So I responded back. And, I did a one-on-one, like exchanged a message. And I said, look, I'm sorry for not responding back. It's just, I signed up for this. And after I did, I'm like, this is not for me and this and that. And then she responds back. She's like, no, you want to know something? I never thought I would do this either. And it's not for me either. So we both like kind of agreed that this wasn't our deal. And 8.5 years later, we're engaged. That's how it happened. Ray Guns, could I tell you more about my military service? And then after this, we have, I think 3 or 4 more questions, maybe 5, 6, something like that. But we're going to run through them now because it's starting to get a little late. My military service, yeah, very simple, quick, to the point. I got thrown out of my house in 1988 for stealing some things that belonged to my parents, trying to hawk them. My uncle took me in. I had no place to go. My uncle said to me, you can't stay here forever. And he said, why don't you go into service? I signed up for the Navy. I went into boot camp. It wasn't for me. I lost a lot of weight, saw a couple of people kill themselves. And I was able, after I think 3 or 4 months, get out of the service on an honorable discharge. The reason they gave is I had shin splints and something else. I don't remember. But about a week before I was supposed to go home, I caught chicken pox. And that's the infamous story that I was in a hospital bed when they did SummerSlam. I think it was SummerSlam when Elizabeth was in the yellow bikini or whatever. I was in a hospital bed. And it was playing in the other room. And I couldn't watch it. So that was my military experience. So I still have my life insurance policy from them. I never canceled it because it's a lot cheaper than buying life insurance out in the real insurance world. But, that's the furthest I got as far as military. Nicholas O'Brien, favorite adult film star of all time? I'll answer it like this. My favorite adult film star of all time was Tracy Lords. We did not know that she was underage at the time she did the movies, but we were underage as well. I'm not older than Tracy Lords. I'm younger. So Tracy Lords, it was just different. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of porn as a kid. I mean, we watched scrambled porn, which was more kind of funny than anything else. But when it got to, the late 80s, early 90s, and we were hanging out with friends and Sometimes it was just weird thinking back, and they would throw porn on and stuff. Tracy Lords was just a huge icon. And then the controversy happened, and it was just weird. But she was such like a big deal when, we first started, seeing movies and stuff like that. So I probably would go with her. I don't watch much these days, and if I do put something on, it's usually something from one of these websites, and like what was it, Pornhub or whatever. And most of them, they're not even like actresses, adult film stars. Best pizza place in New York, for me, my neck of the woods, New Park Pizza. Yes, it's well known for some, being the pizzeria where tragedy happened back in the 80s. They weren't involved in it by the way. There was an infamous race-related killing in my neck of the woods, and it started in front of this pizzeria. That's why it's most well known. But their pizza, even though I haven't had it in about 2 years, their pizza is pretty damn good. Something about their pizza just a little bit different. And if you go on Yelp, you look up New Park Pizza. Yeah, if you do a Google search, you'll learn about the tragedy. But if you go on Yelp and check out their reviews, people will say the same thing. There's something about the way they make their pizza is just different from anything else. Are they the best pizza in New York? No. But for my neck of the woods, it's up there. Favorite scene from The Sopranos? I was never a fan of The Sopranos. My father is friends with some of the actors, some famous actors in it, and I've posted some personal pictures of him with them. One, I can't remember the guy's name, the one with the big forehead. He's got the pushback hair. He's still, I can't remember his name, but he comes and passes by my father's house every Christmas. Rings the bell, comes in, hangs out. My father will take a picture once in a while with my mom, and I post it online. But I never got into The Sopranos. I thought it was a little too sensationalized. There was some parts of it that I just couldn't relate to. I was never a fan of The Sopranos. Never a fan. Like I would see a clip here and there, never could get into it. True story, if you ever get in touch with Joey 924 and those Minority Report guys, I actually was invited to try out as an extra about, I think this was 2006. I think it was 2006, but I didn't go. I just wasn't a fan of The Sopranos, and I was going to try out to be an extra for a show that I didn't even like. So they knew about it because I had gotten the invite at that time. We talked about it on a Minority Report episode too. And you have a good holiday as well, Nick. Michael Kemmers, favorite Christmas wrestling memories? Like I said, being under the tree, getting Atari, getting my Huffy bike that I loved. One time, my father, because we thought he was Santa Claus, tried to swerve us. The following year, you have my uncle be Santa Claus, and my father was home. So we realized that it wasn't my father, but my Uncle Santo had a scent about him. Not bad smell, but you know how some people have a little scent about them that you always remember? He always had a scent about him, like a baby powder scent that we knew it was, me and my brother knew it was my Uncle Santo. So, have you ever heard of Alpha One Wrestling in Hamilton, Ontario? A little bit. Alpha One, I'll be honest with you, you get little drips and drabs of mentioning here as far as like on some websites, but it's a local promotion for you, I think, in Ontario. And, I see little drips and drabs from time to time. I think, wasn't Kenny Omega in Alpha One for a little bit? Because I remember not too long ago watching a couple of matches online, and it was definitely from Alpha One because it was from Canada. But, I tell you, I'm a little surprised they don't get more exposure, especially when you got Fight that pushes almost everything. You would think that they would get a little bit more exposure. But then again, right now with COVID, a lot of promotions are not getting anywhere near the exposure that they should get. Notorious Productions, what's my plans for 2021? Well, I already talked on the show as far as, we're going to do a membership thing. And let me also make this clear. The membership thing is also to keep most of the ads off of YouTube. We're not going to throw 30 ads on the shows and do that as well. The idea is to keep the ads next to nothing for everybody here, but also we're going to do Q&As. Also, we're going to do live chats. We might do a Zoom thing. We're also, going to do a few other things. We're going to let you all dictate. And we'd like to start that in January as far as the membership thing. Even if we don't start the membership thing until February or March, we're still going to go ahead with some of the things. And once springtime comes around, we're going to do something with sports. I don't know how often that's going to be. It might be a once-a-week deal, but we're going to do quite a few things over here. We're obviously not going to burn ourselves out. And one thing is for certain, all of the shows will be a little bit shorter. I've gotten them now to around the 2-hour mark, and the only reason why this is over 2 hours today is because of the amount of questions that came in. I'm not going to, cheap anybody who took the time that were nice enough to send a question for this, so I'm going to answer you. But I think once we start doing this every week, or we do a Q&A, for members and a Q&A, it'll split up the questions a little bit. I think if we did it once a week instead of once every 2 weeks, the questions would be far less. Kind of similar to what we used to do with Patreon. Patreon, 2 years ago, we were doing a show every 2 weeks. And when we did do questions for our VIPers, we get hit with loads. We did, I think, a 5 or 6 hour broadcast once. That's how many questions came in from our VIPers. Then we started doing it once a week, and it spread it out nicely because people knew now they didn't have to wait 2 weeks, or if they missed out on that, they had to wait a whole month to get their question in. Now, with it being every week, they can leave a question this week, maybe skip next week, skip the week after, do it again on the 4th week. This month, you got 5 breakfast soups for Patreon. So, those are a few things. One thing is for certain. I want to double. I said 30,000 earlier. I want to get 30,000 or double the number of subscribers here, but I want to earn it. And, we're going to take everything to the next level. And we're also concerned with quality over quantity. There are people out there that do podcasts just to be relevant. And that's not, as long as we have an audience and as long as you enjoy it, we're going to keep banging it out. But we want to give the most bang for your buck. And I've realized, even with Patreon, that no matter what you advertise, there's just, there's some audience that are hardcore supporters, and then there's an audience that, will jump from show to show, podcast to podcast, which is cool. I just want, at the end of 2021, to be in everybody's rotation. I'm not saying that ours is going to be your favorite. I'm not saying that I'm going to be your favorite. But if I'm in your rotation of shows that you enjoy, that's my goal. I'm not looking, and I said this when I even started this channel, I'm not looking to get anybody to stop tuning into blah, blah, blah show and tune into this show. Ooh, drop my keyboard. That's not a good thing. Especially when I think it just screwed up all my questions over here. Oh, I could get this. Oh, I got it. But I'm not looking to get anybody, tune into me and stay away from that crap. I know that there's some podcasters that are doing that towards me now. Yes, I know there's some podcasters who lost quite a few viewers and now only tune in here. It's not my intention. If anybody out there lost viewers because I started doing video, my answer to you is I didn't start this to hurt anybody. And if you lost viewers, then you probably have to do something to get them back, And I've also learned over the years, I want people to tune in to me because I'm good, not because somebody is bad. So if I'm part of your rotation, that's perfect for me. So, Danny 2, November 18th. Do I have any memory, or what are my thoughts on the spot of referee Charles Robinson running and dramatic kick out of Edge in Edge versus Undertaker. I don't have much memories of that with Charles Robinson, but I will tell you, Charles Robinson easily has become one of my favorite referees over the years. I don't know if I liked Little Nate all that much. Like, I thought maybe if he was Ric Flair's personal referee, kind of like what they did with the NWO, but when they started trying to make Charles Robinson as a character and they did the Little Nate, look, he fit the role perfectly. He looked great, but I just never got into it. But Charles Robinson over the years has been consistent. He's been good. There was a match very recently. Was it Braun Strowman? It was Braun Strowman and someone else. I don't think it was Big Show. But there was a match where the ring imploded this year. And someone in the comments said, I could pause this right now. In fact, you know what? I am going to pause it right now, and I will get your answer. I got it. I think I'm going to like this pause button thing. It was this year. It was The Fiend versus Braun Strowman, and the ring collapsed. And to this day, I think a lot of people aren't aware of what Charles Robinson did when the ring collapsed. Go back, if anybody out there that may not have noticed it at the time, that may not remember, go back and watch. I think it's from August of this year. Braun Strowman versus The Fiend, when the ring collapsed, and just look at Charles Robinson. That guy has done some funny-ass shit, taking bumps like that over the years. And I tell you, you think of Hebner's, you think of Mike Chioda. A lot of people talk about Aubrey Edwards as well. Charles Robinson obviously is an icon as far as referees go. And a lot of people out there that are tuning in right now will agree with me that he definitely has gotten appreciation over the years. But I think Charles Robinson, as far as us and the longevity, as far as consistency, I think he is one of the top referees of our generation. So I am a fan of Charles Robinson. Maybe I didn't like, Little Nate all that much, but, I like some of the stuff he does. And you know what? He's comes across really, really friendly on interviews. I've tuned into a few of his interviews in the last couple of years. I'm a Charles Robinson fan. Absolutely. And God bless him for being able to referee for that long and still do a damn good job. A lot of times they say, when you don't pay attention to a referee during a match, they're doing their job. But when you see things like that with the ring imploding, Charles Robinson, what he did, I mean, it's just, I watched that on loop and I thought it was hilarious. So, Michael Gonzalez, if I could ask Vince McMahon any question and get a legit answer, what would it be? If I could ask Vince McMahon one question, wow, look, there's a lot of things I would ask Vince McMahon, obviously, but if I really could ask anything and get the truth, only because he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, I would want to know what he really knew with the Snuka Nancy Argentino incident. Because they have sensationalized some of it over the years. I covered it in detail on the History Show. I saw the Dark Side of the Ring stuff, and, some of it was kind of, sensationalized for TV purposes. But I would really want to know I'm not saying that he witnessed anything, But what would transpire, and Morocco has talked a little bit over the years, as have a few other people as well, but I would really want to know that more than anything else. I think if I ever had the chance to talk to Vince McMahon, I think the first words out of my mouth would be a thank you. You know, I appreciate everything he's done. I mean, I've brought this up too, other than my father. No male has entertained me for more years in my lifetime than Vince McMahon, other than my father. So I would ask him about the snooker thing. I would ask him about that. Dayhawk, do I think China would have been a great WWE champion if given the opportunity? Wow. You want to know something? And look, I've been a huge fan of China. God rest her soul. I had the privilege to, talk to a few of her close friends and relatives since her passing. I still can't believe that guy didn't get in some type of serious trouble for, some of his antics. Just reminds me too much of the Anna Nicole Smith, tragedy. The only problem I have is you got to think back to who was on the WWF roster at the time. If China would have become heavyweight champion, there are too many names that just their pushes, their storylines, their auras, their track record, how they were portrayed on TV, there'd be too many people that would overcome her. So, at that time, it would have been very, very difficult to have her remain as a champion for any extended period of time. To win the belt and then lose it a couple of weeks later, yeah, that I could see. But I don't think she would have been this, she would have made history, but I don't think she would have been this tremendous defending WWF champion at the time, only because there was so many people on the pecking order above her. And what do those people do? The storylines would have been abysmal if they didn't all go after her for that title. So I don't know. As far as other titles, yeah. But WWE champion, WWF champion, I don't think so, to be honest with you. Tyree Jones, he's not sure, but why does Jim Cornette seem to despise Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks so much? Well, I think because of the way their matches come across. Jim Cornette is old school. Jim Cornette, you see people kicking out of, crazy ass shit that you wouldn't be alive after getting hit with. I think just Jim Cornette doesn't like the spectacle of just moves being moves without meaning behind them and a good story behind it. But let's also be honest. The reason why most wrestlers do not call out Cornette on this stuff is because Cornette knows where his bread is buttered. And there's a lot of people out there, with all due respect, that buy into Cornette shit. There are some podcasters out there that have a huge following simply because they bitch on everything. And it's not just wrestling. It's about politics. It's about life. It's about sports. It's about wrestling. There are people out there, and they're very smart. I'm not knocking it. There are people out there who have realized, wow, if I take this perspective and focus my show on this type of tone, but also go against it here and there to be authentic with it, that would get more viewers. If Jim Cornette started appreciating some of the wrestlers that he is, set up as despising, I think he would lose viewers. It's not like everybody, I respect that you have changed. Jim Cornette is old school. No question about it. Jim Cornette is not a fraud. But Jim Cornette understands that certain aspects and certain viewpoints and certain ways he treats things gets him many more viewers. And I've said, misery loves company. And that is the truth. That is the truth. That's why you have people out there that's why it just will, it doesn't baffle me anymore because I understand why people do it. But if AEW sucks so bad and you're not a fan and you don't watch it, why do you tweet 30 times about it on Wednesday night? That's because people want attention. And, that's what it's all about. It's all about attention. Unfortunately, attention doesn't get you laid. Attention doesn't get you a date. Attention doesn't get you revenue, unless, you're like Jim Cornette or somebody else. And Jim Cornette obviously is a Hall of Famer, so he deserves all the viewers that he gets. But there are other people out there that just, I don't know what it is. I guess it's a form of relevancy. But, I don't know. I try to stay away from that. But Cornette, I think deep down inside doesn't have the hatred that, is portrayed towards certain people. But Jim Cornette is a stubborn person as well. And Jim Cornette, once he takes a certain view about someone, it's very, very difficult for him to change it. But, Jim Cornette, he's authentic, but he also knows what buttons to push to get people to tune in. And some people just buy into anything that he says. Put it this way, I don't like to use this terminology because I'm not in the business, but wrestling is a work. The injuries and the bumps are real, but wrestling is a work. So if wrestling is a work and his entire life in wrestling is involved around an entertainment product, why would you think anything otherwise of him being an extension of the business that he loves? So if it's entertainment and a little bit of a work, why would you think Jim Cornette would be the exact same on his podcast? A lot of people do get that, but there's a lot of people that will just buy into anything that he says. So Jay Carlos, my favorite wrestling video game ever. I don't know. I like No Mercy. It's weird because at the time, No Mercy was a lot of fun. And I was doing my website at the time, but No Mercy, it was fun, but it wasn't like I remember when I was doing the Creator Wrestler Galleries, I thought Smackdown Here Comes the Pain was even more popular. But as far as shelf life over the years, like even when I play, on my Raspberry Pi, I'll stop in No Mercy and play it a couple of games. So I don't know. I kind of lean towards No Mercy. To be honest, I like No Mercy. I mean, there's been other games over the years that have been better quality, better graphics, better gameplay. But I just think as far as shelf life, after all these years, I kind of lean towards No Mercy. JP Sweeney. JP Sweeney is from Dublin, Ireland, and just wondering, have I thought about having kids someday with my girl? And he compliments her. Sounds like a lovely person. He thinks I would be a good father. Thank you for that. I would be a good father because I think I'm still immature. So I probably would be like a kid with my kids if that was the case. But I think my ship has sailed as far as having kids. It's a tremendous responsibility, and it's something that at my age, even though I'm not old, but at my age, number one, bye-bye vacations. Number two, bye-bye shows. Number three, there's so much time consumed. And look, I wouldn't base kids on schedule. Don't get me wrong. But, I always said this to my best friend growing up that I still talk to today. His name is Joey. And I'll never forget, his mom died when we were 15. And his mom was, I think, 68 when she died. She had my friend when she was 53 years old. And we weren't even 16 yet to get into clubs, 16 to party, 18 to drink, which turned into 21 to drink. We were 15 years old, and his mom was already an elderly person. And, I remember when he got married, I think at 25, his father was close to 80. And, he opened up to me one time and was very, very bitter that his parents had him so late in their years, because even when he was a teenager, like he couldn't do the things with his dad that a lot of other people did. My father had me when he was 20. He was 20. Actually, he was 19 going on 20. So even when I was 18 years old, my father was 37, 38. You know what I mean? So my father was still very young. By the time my friend turned 20, his father was 73, 75 years old, somewhere around there. So I would not want, like my kids to grow up and then when they're a teenager or they're like 20 and then they're seen with me and somebody says, "Oh, is that your grandfather?" I think my time has sailed with that, to be honest with you. Plus, not for nothing, I don't know if I want kids to be brought into this world with everything that's gone on, just the toxic climate, it just everything going on. It's not even about just COVID. It's just, we're in some bad times. It's going to take a generation to repair all of what has happened. And I don't even think we're at the worst of it yet. So you're like one terrorist attack, one global attack away from things just really being in total chaos. And I'm not wishing on it, obviously. As you notice, I don't bitch and complain on YouTube or Twitter. I try to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad, but I don't know if I want kids brought up in this world right now. So, Yankee Man, big fan of the show since the Minority Report days. Who can I not stand the most, the Kardashians or Mataraz's John Travolta playing John Gotti? Well, I like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. I liked him in Welcome Back, Kotter. I liked him in Pulp Fiction. So there are movies that I like John Travolta in. I could forgive him for being John Gotti. It's a movie role, but I could tell you this neighborhood just despises him for taking that role. It was god-awful. I still remember when he came to this neighborhood for the Gotti movie, and I remember old school guys who were former gang just like want to spit in his face. They just did not like it. And sure enough, the movie came out. I never watched it, but people I talked to said, yeah, no, it was as bad as we thought it would be. But the Kardashians, it's nothing personal, but I just can't get into the Kardashians. So the Kardashians have zero. It's not even a physical attraction. Like, even if they posed nude right now or they did an adult video, I honestly don't think I would watch it. There's nothing about the Kardashians that I like. But like I say, I used the wrestling example. Replace the Kardashians with AEW. If you don't like AEW, if you don't like the Kardashians, how come you don't tweet the Kardashians 30 times every night that they're on TV? But yet AEW, which you despise, why do you tweet it 30 times? Telling us that you don't like it. It's just, it's cute when you're 17 years old and you just get, just having a good laugh, and you're just young and you just, sometimes you get in your 20s and you're just looking for a little bit of attention. But it's no longer cute when you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. It actually looks like it has a weirdness factor to it, in my opinion. I think that's it. Wow. Yeah, that's it. Those are all the questions. So, all right, 2 hours, 45 minutes, a little bit longer show. But like I said, the next one is 2 weeks from today, which will be the 28th of December. So Merry Christmas, everybody who celebrates. You'll obviously have me on all the other shows before Christmas. So, what happened here? Sorry about that. You'll have me on many shows before Christmas. So it's not, hey, Merry Christmas, and you're not going to see me again before then. But the next Q&A will be 2 weeks from today. And then starting in January, we're going to do it every week. Keep the questions down so the shows will be a little bit shorter as well. And Mish and I will start working on that membership thing. And trust me, anybody that doesn't sign up, you're not going to lose out on anything. Trust me, this channel is going to work out very nicely, and it'll be a nice balance. And we'll see where it goes. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really, really excited. And the days of me feeling guilty for, just wanting to get bigger and better and expand and, just, try something different, those days are long gone. So definitely post your feedback for today's episode. Now, if you have questions for the next show, do not post them here. By the magic of technology, when I do this, and you're on your computer or your phone, you will see a link come across. Just click that, and you post your questions there. And if for some reason, you're doing it through a Roku and the links don't pop up, which I know doesn't happen because I watch YouTube through Roku and none of the links pop up. In the description area, I will have a link where you could post your questions, and we'll do that in 2 weeks. In fact, yeah, that'll be the last one for 2020. And then starting in January when we do Q&As, Mish will be joining me as well. So we'll have some fun. And, we're going to figure out what day of the week to do those questions. So maybe we'll stick to Monday afternoons. Maybe we'll do it on a weekend. Saturdays seem to be free for a lot of us. So even if we just took an hour or two on a Saturday just to chew. And remember, we're going to do live chats as well. So it's not just Q&As, but we'll just do a live chat. Maybe the live chat will be every Saturday. And we'll just chat about whatever's going on in our lives. Wrestling, non-wrestling, and, you're welcome to tune in. But everyone, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, I appreciate if you would give it a like. My keyboard, I just don't want to shut it down again before it almost disconnected inadvertently. But if you enjoyed today's show, I appreciate if you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. We're this close to hitting 17,000. What are we at right now? I turned the thing down to not see. Let's see. Where are we at right now? That's the stock. That's the temperature. Let's see. We're at 16,800. So it is close. So if you haven't done so already, subscribe. And if you hit that notification bar, whenever new material is up, you'll be notified immediately. So everyone, again, since you'll see me on other shows, I will have plenty of opportunity to do so. But for the very few of you that may only enjoy this Q&A, I say to you now, thank you for the support. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. And much love as always. And I will see you again for the next Q&A, December 28th. So, ciao, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.